Well, good evening, everyone. This is the HPDD Review Board meeting for this evening, April 20th. Tonight on the agenda, we have the Harbor Classic Homes final site plan review that will be kicking off this evening. Attorney Campobasso's here.
Good evening.
Good to see you and the rest of the gang. It's great to be back here we got a great review board here. There's a lot of great people here on this board. They bring a lot of experience and a lot of different knowledge from a lot of different angles. They represent the town very well. We've dealt with Attorney Campobasso on the concept plan review last year this time. Top-notch group of people. They did a wonderful job with everything they brought to the table with us. And thank God we also have Tamika Murphy and Dave George who... let me tell you something, none of this would happen, okay? Because if it was up to me, we'd be still working on the concept plan from last year. Because these guys are rock stars, and they organize everything behind the scenes for us. They do a terrific job, tremendous. So with that being said, I'd like to kick this off. The first thing on the agenda is the meeting minutes from our last meeting from last year. I'd just like to go through that real quick and get that off the agenda. Also kind of gives us a little framework for this evening's meeting, which is nice. Does anybody have any comments, questions, or complaints on those April 21st, 2021 meeting minutes?
I have a question. First of all, I'll make a motion to approve the April 21st minutes
All right, do we have a second?
for discussion.
I'll accept. I'll second.
All right, we have a second for discussion. Let's discuss.
The one thing, was it 142 or 144 units? First page.
Well, that's a great
Inch
question.
down.
44.
I think it was 44.
72 structures. No.
I know what it is now, it's 142.
So,
It's two.
142.
142.
The applicants say 142. How can you argue with them? I don't have anything to refute it. I kind of I don't remember personally, and I don't have any of my notes from back then with me here tonight. So,
Oh, it should be right here.
and I don't have the old drawing. I know the old
Yeah,
drawing
there are-
referenced the quantity, Dick.
Yes, it did, and that's why I'm saying, that's why when I saw 142.
Oh, no, it is in Dave's thing is 88 to 142.
142. Okay. So we good with
All
the
right,
142?
very
then?
good.
That suffice?
Oh,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah. Heck yeah.
Are you still checking this, or are you
Yes.
good with the 142?
I'm gonna check it.
Yep.
If you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
While she's checking that, are there any other questions, comments on the meeting notes? I have none personally. They look good to me.
Okay. And this is from our April minutes? from
Yeah, it was
last
the
year?
April 21st meeting.
Okay. April 21st HPDD minutes. No, it was 142 in those minutes as well. In what we had on, yeah.
Okay, so if we're all good with 142, do I hear a motion to accept and approve the minutes as written?
I'll make the motion to approve. Oh, didn't he already make it? And
Well, I thought that was to
seconded it.
discuss.
Oh, okay.
No, you're good. You just have to
Yeah.
do an
Just-
aye.
Vote.
Just gonna vote?
Yep, just gotta vote.
Thank you. Once again, she saves see, I'm telling you, she's great. All right, so all in favor of accepting these minutes? Aye.
Williams, aye.
Is that the one that
Barry,
wasn't there?
Yes, April 21st.
All right, then I'll,
Correct. You were not
then
there.
I obviously will,
You're written down as an attendee on these minutes.
okay. I know I missed one of them, but,
So Senical, aye.
for example,
Burlington,
All right, hearing no nays, that's unanimous, they're accepted. Thank you. All right, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the opening up the Harbor Classic Homes definitive site plan for the proposed 55 and over community up at the Rutland Heights Way. Before we get the applicant up here and get his presentation rolling, just want to set some general framework for tonight's meeting and the whole hearing throughout the process here. Some of the things, there's a tremendous amount of information that we're going to have to go through, and I just want to keep everybody's kind of mindset on the macro of things. I'm sure there's a lot of details. And for instance, if you looked at like Quinn's engineering report that they had, they've got some fine tuning little details, and they've got some other larger items. I just want to keep this board and the applicant and everybody on par with the larger items. As an example, we've got a plan for 142 units. If that was to shrink down, let's just say 40 units or whatever, just as an example, not saying that's what I want to do, but that's going to change his engineering tremendously. So a lot of the things that they have not done yet is because we haven't given them the approval on certain larger aspects. And so you can't blame somebody for not doing a whole lot of spending $10, $20, $30,000 on engineering when they don't even know if that's going to be the case. So I'm certainly aware of that and cognizant of that in respect to them. So we really, I think the best interest is to give them, let's focus on some of these larger things tonight and try to give them, keep hammering down the direction for these guys. So it's most efficient for both parties. And we get to the end game here as soon as possible, okay? That's kind of my thought process. We've got some things to cover tonight. There's the Concom items. We've got a memo from them. They've got some concerns. We'll have to do that. I also want to probably draft a memo, get back to them with some response to their comments. Some things I think we can clean up quickly. Other things might be works in progress. Go through the Quinn Engineering review as well, and hopefully we can start to get a list of items here to do, some things to work through, and start narrowing these things down so we have a well thought through, finalized, definitive plan here that's going to really work for the town. It's going to work for the applicant, and it's going to build a great community up there on the hill. That's ultimately the end game. We're here to represent the best thing for the town of Rutland, but we also want to make sure the people that move here that aren't even here to speak for themselves get a real nice community here, and one that we can be proud of, certainly HCH can be proud of, and the people that are soon to be neighbors of us and townspeople. So with that being said, I'd like to open the hearing up to the applicant and let them give their overall review of this new plan that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's my stuff in your way.
Not quite sure where to stand, so this is okay.
Wherever you'd like.
Everyone can hear me.
You can walk around, move around, keep yourself,
We'll stay out of the visual. My name is Peter Campobasso. I'm an attorney with my office at 3 Park Street in Leominster, Mass. I represent the applicant, Harbor Classic Homes LLC, and I have with me tonight Ron Coyview and Laurel Adams, the principals of Harbor Classic Home. We also have with us Wes Fliss from Haley Ward, the engineers that are working on the proposal. I'd like to thank the board, Dave George, Tamika, everyone that's been involved prior to tonight, because there has been a lot of work with the preliminary meetings, the preliminary concept plan, different meetings that we've had with Mike Sullivan and Dave to get here this evening with a proposed final site plan for your review and consideration. We do feel that once we go through the process, you will see that the proposal does meet the requirements. It is in line with the Rutland Heights reuse development plan, and it conforms to the bylaw, the requirements in the overall bylaw, but the specific requirements of the HPDD and the Rutland Heights district. What the project proposes to build is a 142 unit, 71 buildings of duplex buildings, over 55 housing, residential housing. It's right on one lot, which is, the planning board has approved an A&R plan that broke the site up from the, I believe it was 86 acres. There are now 3 lots that sort of match what the original intent of the Rutland Heights redevelopment plan was. And they do follow Rutland Heights Way, as they were blocked out before, being A, B, and C, or C, B, and A, I believe, with A being where the proposed development is. We do have the main entrance coming off the top at Rutland Heights, and we will discuss the second emergency access off of the town's current existing way. But what you'll see throughout on a bigger site plan, the amenities that are included in the project. There is a walking trail that walks throughout the entire site. It does loop out of the project and loop down onto the lower area where the pond is and the big open space area is. There are different gazebos placed throughout the site. There is a community center that is at the top of the project, right to the left as you come off the main entrance. And there are also, I believe, there will be either a tennis court or a pickleball court. I can't remember which one it is. Pickleboard, I'm sorry. The new craze. We did submit everything. We did receive comments earlier today from the peer review. Some of the items we probably can address tonight. Some of the items we probably will not be able to address tonight, but we will clearly work on them so that we can submit any follow-up information. What we are hoping to accomplish tonight is to have a good discussion, get some feedback, understand what your questions are, what your issues and concerns are, so that we can address them. Some follow-up information that we are working on that will be completed within the next couple of weeks. We will have a traffic study completed. We have a draft report right now, but we do need to finalize that. We will have renderings or drawings. I know there were some questions about the actual buildings and what they look like. We were hoping to have those this evening, but we couldn't quite get that completed. And we will also be finalizing a lighting plan. So those items will be coming to you, hopefully within the next 10 to 15 business days. What I'd like to do now is possibly have Wes give a little bit more of a presentation on the specific details of the project, so that you can understand better what's laid out there on the screen.
Thank you. Thank you. Please. Again, Wesley Fliss, Whitman and Bingham Associates, we're a division of Haley Ward. We're the site civil engineers on the project. The project that you're looking at here sits on about 32.8 acres. As Peter stated before, about a month ago, the planning board had endorsed the A&R plan to cut this property into 3 pieces, and what was left for this project was 32.8 acres. The number of units, again, as Peter stated, was 142 units on 71 duplexes located throughout, you can see in the brown. As he stated, there is a community center located more toward the top of the hill. The intent was to create, as you're coming into the site from the main driveway, this central location of a community center, but also to relocate the existing flagpole, the historic flagpole also on top of the hill here, kind of create that look as you're coming up into the site. To see that flagpole, but also have a community center. Associated with a community center, we do have a larger gazebo located there. Looking at approximately 4,240 linear feet of driveway. We don't consider this to be streets or roadways because we're not looking to have public layout associated with this. It's all going to be a private development. Everything's going to be maintained and kept within the association of the development, nothing to be taken over by the town. And so we consider this as driveways. We did, however, design the driveways per the subdivision rules and regulations with regards to grades of the road, grades of the throughout the entire site, and also the addition or the improvements here. We also, with regards to the width of the driveway, we went along with the subdivision rules and regulations, being 24 feet for the amount of homes that we service by those driveways also. So we did try to keep within the subdivision rules and regulations with regards to the association with the roadway design. But none of it's going to be public roadway network. It's all going to be a private network. The proposal will tie into the municipal water and sewer in 2 locations. We have one location down here for the water and the sewer, and the second location will come down the existing driveway that will be improved to tie into the sewer and the water that dead ends here at the end of the T on Rutland Heights Way. The intent is to have this second access here that exists currently as an emergency access. We know about a year ago when the board met with the conceptual plan, there was some conversation about second access. And so what we were trying to do is continue the existing driveway that existed now into the Rutland Heights hospital property, to continue that in the same, roughly in the same location. But from here to here, we had to show improvements to that to meet the subdivision rules and regulations for grade-wise and also for some of the width. We do show minor improvements along the length of the driveway here to meet 20-foot width to make sure that we have fire protection, proper fire protection. We had actually a department head review meeting, and the fire chief did get to see that and make sure that he was okay with the width of that driveway. And so that's what we're showing there is 20-foot wide driveway. The intent of that second driveway is to have a gate located on the driveway. That's something that we need to work with the public safety officials to figure out exactly where that gate should be, such that it is only for emergency access, not for the main traffic on this. I know part of the peer review, and I know it's been asked already by some of the other department heads, is this main access, is that going to be sufficient for the 142 units? And that will be addressed in the traffic analysis that's being completed as part of looking at the site layout and to make sure that that is a safe layout with regards to serving the 142 units. We do have stormwater located through the site. It doesn't really show up well on the project on the plan here, but we do have stormwater basins located throughout the site. The way that the property sits is there's a high point in the property here, and it goes off in 4 locations, well, to the north, to the west, to the south, and to the east toward the Rutland Heights Pond. And so what we looked at is collecting the stormwater in a similar fashion, where the first part of this project will come into the basin here, part of the project in here will go to the basin there, and in a similar fashion with the southwest and the northwest corners will all go into those basins. The way we designed the drainage was to not negatively impact the abutting properties. The abutting property to the north of the town, which is the middle school, to the west, the abutting property, which is, as we get a little further to the west of the farmland, and into the south, which is the existing town property, and into the east would be the pond. And we were to make sure that we weren't negatively impacting the pond also. As you stated, we did go in front of the Conservation Commission last night as part of our notice of intent filing. What I show in blue are the edge of wetlands and also the 100-foot buffer zones with those wetlands. There's also a isolated wetland along here. We did have a handful of comments that came from that meeting. I know they pushed, or they continued that meeting until May 3rd so that we can get a peer review back from Quinn Engineering was the biggest item, at least I took from that meeting. There were a couple other smaller items that they, I know, put in that memo to the board today, which we can address in a couple minutes. Part of the review, I know, with the Conservation Commission, and then as we get further down the road and closer to construction, we'll obviously, we do show erosion control on here. As we get closer to construction, we will file with EPA for the Nepenthes permit also for erosion control during construction. And so as part of our plan, we do show some of those measures on here, and then as we get to that process, we will be providing more additional information to the EPA and the Conservation Commission as part of that construction-related items. But we do show, hay bales or erosion control barriers throughout the project along the limits of construction, and we also do show on one of the other plans in the set a fair amount of erosion control blankets or jute matting and so forth to make sure that we don't have areas where we have steeper slopes, make sure that we don't have any erosion really. And that's some of the concerns we had with the site is the material out here to make sure that we weren't having any, especially with the proximity to the pond, and then I know there's a fair amount of wetlands to the south there. We were concerned about that. We want to make sure that we're going to take care of those issues.
Will you provide a stormwater management construction plan?
Yep. And so as part of what we already supplied to the town is we did the drainage analysis, and the drainage analysis, the operation and maintenance plan for post-construction. As part of the EPA filing that we are required to do 14 days prior to construction, we have to do the stormwater pollution prevention plan. And so that document is fairly large, but that includes a lot of the approvals that come from the local boards. And so any of the conditions that this board would put on it, the commission would put on it, we integrate all that into that stormwater pollution prevention plan. And so we typically give a copy of that to the Conservation Commission. If this board wants a copy also for the records, we have no problem giving it to it. It's a fairly large document. And it's we call it a working document, because as the construction goes on in the project, the applicant or the contractor is responsible for keeping weekly logs on rain events, erosion events, making sure that they're doing their weekly inspections on any erosion control out here, and making sure that the site is stable throughout the life of the project.
Some steep areas, so.
Correct, and that's where it actually, when we finished grading it, the site actually didn't work out so bad, especially in really the meat of the project here, where we really didn't have too many steep areas. It's really along the outskirts of the project here, and the one way we worked with the developer on handling that is we're looking at walkout basements for some of the units on the exterior of the site to kind of take some of the curse away from those steep areas. And the same thing along these areas here, they'll have walkout basements where the rest of them are going to be slab on grade. We'll still have a lot of that single-story living, but some of the units will have the option to have a walkout basement if they want a walkout basement for storage and so forth. So,
Okay. And how about a phased construction? What's your, you may not know this right now, and that's okay, but just while you're talking about, how you're gonna attack the site civilly, you're gonna go at the whole 30 acres, or you're just gonna kind of do it road by road and whatnot? What's your intent, you think?
I can
Correct. Yes, we are working on designing 3 phases. Okay.
And one of the points I think we have to be cognizant of is part of the land disposition agreement we have with the town is for a certain number of units to be constructed within 3 years,
Okay.
which I believe is 88. So the phasing that they're anticipating is going to take that into consideration.
And we did incorporate this part of our design is the way again, we have 2 connection points for the utilities for that reason, and also to help with the phasing of the project into it. So we do have the connections up here, so we can phase in a portion of the project in for the sewer and the water, and then work our way, and then have to phase the water and sewer for the
And you
next.
start on that high side and work your way down, I presume, correct?
That would be the intent, is to work on this side first, yes, exactly, yeah.
So that should minimize
Well,
erosion getting too out of
Exactly.
control. I mean, you got a 300-foot run there, boy, it's gonna
Correct.
cut pretty deep, but if you're just doing small cuts, that's nice. Good.
Correct.
Good.
And, right, this section here is gonna be, this is really our biggest cut in the site, getting into the entrance there, because the existing driveway is fairly steep. It doesn't meet the subdivision rules and regulations in regards to landing and so forth. And so there is some cut as you come into the site there. But we tried minimizing that as much as we could, but still meet the subdivision rules and regulations, so. Now, we do show landscaping on the plan. We do show a mixture of trees and shrubs. Because of the type of development, and I know it was a concern of the developer, is they're concerned about the type of trees they plant, because they don't want to have deep rooting trees or so forth. And so they're working on figuring exactly what kind of trees they want to plant, because they're more concerned about the roots over time have impacts with all the driveways so close to each other and the sidewalks. So that is something that they are working on, getting species that work to make, aesthetically pleasing for the development, but also long-term to make sure that it's not negatively impacting the infrastructure afterwards.
Sure, and if I just may friendly suggest, a low-growing tree, because Dick, it's windy on that hill.
Windy is
And-
true.
It's windy in Rutland. And boy, tall trees up on that hill might not stay tall for very long, so. Just for what it's worth.
And we, on the planning board, have gone through the wrong trees being planted in the subdivision, so.
Correct.
Right. And so that's something that they are very cognizant of.
Yes.
We have been going to these 55 and over units throughout Massachusetts, looking at their landscape, what's working between their buildings and their open areas. Some older ones. We don't want to look at the new. We want to see what's established. That's why we're not sure exactly what's to be.
Good move.
And in the same breath, they're also looking at the lighting in those developments also to figure out what works best for what they're trying to do here, because of the proximity to the buildings and so forth. They want to make sure they have enough lighting, but not too much lighting.
Yeah.
So there's a fair trade-off there, and that's some of the stuff that they said they're still working on getting those finalized.
In our subdivisions, we don't allow street lighting.
That's good.
Which, and that's what we were talking
Don't
about.
allow it?
We don't like it.
No,
What's the reason?
isn't that right, Tim, who's on Zoom?
Please do not listen to Dick. The subdivision bylaw or regulation allows streetlights. And
It's a waiver.
because these are private ways, I would encourage streetlights.
I won't.
Now,
All right.
I would ask so I don't know, the next step for the board, I can go over a number of items with regards to, one of the things I look at is, I know when I submitted my cover letter with the application, we went over the standards that this board need to make their decision on. We can go over those now, if you want to wait to a different meeting as we get closer to the end of the review, or if you want to
No,
talk about those now, and then we can talk about those later.
Yeah, that's a good, great place to start, so I don't think that's a problem.
All right, so the 5 things, and I'll list them right down in our answers, and we can stop where you want to stop. So the first one is the project is consistent with the purpose set out in this section, section 23, the Heights Plan Development District. And so the project is proposed as a senior housing development with 142 single-story duplex units, consistent with that section. And I know that's one of the allowable uses within this district. B is a vehicle egress on the site is designed so as to avoid hazard to vehicles and pedestrians. And so, as I stated, the proposed driveways throughout the development were designed to the requirements of the town of Rutland subdivision regulations. 24-foot wide pavement width, minimum grade of 1%, maximum grade of 8%. Proper leveling areas at the end of the driveways, and minimum centerline radii of 125 feet or greater. And we do propose a 5-foot wide sidewalk along one side of all the driveways to connect to the existing sidewalk that's out in Rutland Heights Way. And we can talk about the sidewalks in a little bit when we get through peer review. Parking facilities are provided for each use and structure in the development. And so each of the 142 units has one parking space in front of their one-car garage. And then we do show parking associated with the community center, but we also show 5 other additional parking fields sporadically around the site for visitor parking. D, facilities or functions that require location with scenic areas, e.g. tops of hills or street frontage, are designed to be visually compatible with the natural historical characteristics. So we propose the buildings away from the entrance into the development to provide for a more aesthetically pleasing view into the project. And so what we're proposing is some landscaping here, and also the project sign would be here. The left side kind of got difficult because we had to put a detention basin along the left side. Problem with that is you're not supposed to really landscape on the berm of the basin, because then we have structural issues then with the basin. And so we aren't really showing anything there. When the basin's completed, it'll be grassed, and it'll be green afterwards. So there will be some aesthetics there, and we can, we did add some other plantings along as you get up the street there. The community center, the largest, like I said, stated before, the largest gazebo and the relocated flagpole are also proposed near the highest point in the project, so they kind of stick out a little more. And as you're coming into the project, you kind of see those amenities. E, the project does not adversely affect the natural environment to the detriment of the community character, public health, or safety. And then the proposed development does not require any filling of wetlands. Most of the disturbance within the 100-foot wetlands buffer zone is due to the proposed stormwater basins, which is here. There is a small amount of disturbance over here, which is just for the sewer and the water connection, which is in an area that's already paved.
Sure.
The project has also been cited so that most of this development is outside of the 400-foot Zone A associated with the Rutland Heights Pond. Approximately 19 acres of the less than 33-acre project site was previously disturbed by the Rutland Heights State Hospital. The proposed development was cited to limit the amount of disturbance outside of the previously disturbed area. We propose about 7.5 new acres of disturbance, leaving 6.3 acres of the site in its natural setting, which would be the outside of the site to the west and the south, and also this area to the east, obviously within that Zone A of Rutland Heights Pond.
Is that the darker green?
Most of the darker green down here, but also this area here is fields, and but we also, because it's in the 400-foot Zone A,
Okay.
Rutland Heights Way, we work
Staying out of that?
Yeah, because we will deal with DCR with regards to that, and we want to make sure that we limit the amount of work within their jurisdiction such that we're dealing with them for a determination right now of applicability, hoping that they don't require any additional permits, that they're okay with it, because we kept everything really out of it. The only disturbance is really to the existing areas that are disturbed now, which is their driveway, and real small little walking trail, which I'll actually touch on in a second here.
Which, that's a public roadway, the bottom one, correct?
Yeah.
This is all town, yeah, this is all, well, it's not public, it's town property,
Town
but it's not
property.
public right of way, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the town driveway out to there.
So
There are other pieces of property in the
I
back.
would hope they'd be a little more amenable than the
Well, then that's kind
normal
of the
treatment
way,
they give the general contractors today.
then that's kind of why we laid it out the way we did. We tried keeping everything really out of there as much as we could.
Yeah, keep showing us, man.
And then the last one is land uses are located as to allow aesthetic circulation between one use and another. Undeveloped land is located in a manner that provides active and passive recreation, resource protection, and pedestrian wildlife links to adjacent uses on and off site where feasible. And so the project proposes, I stated before, the community center, a larger gazebo. We do show pickleball court, smaller gazebos located throughout. And one thing I didn't point out before is the walking path that we show that kind of will connect into the gazebo and the pickleball court here, around the exterior, kind of winding through the woods along the exterior here. And our intent is to drop them toward the pond so they can at least get a view of the pond and walk out to that area there. And so the majority of the walking path stays on the property, that will be the applicants, but there is a small section that will be on the town property tying into the off-site amenity that the town has. And those are the five items that the board has, I guess, to make the decision.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Anything else that you?
There are a number of items that if you want to discuss now or hold off and as we get going. And I don't know when you want to get to the peer review or the Conservation Commission letter, we can.
Yeah, what I'd like to just reference real quick is from the concept plan review we did, we had some items, and I just would like to address those and put those out there on the table. What did I do with those? It was actually in the meeting minutes, technically, that we had.
Is this what you're looking for? Because that's got the 7.
Yeah, the 7, yep, excellent, thank you. Yep.
I think that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, basically, one is the number of units, well, the amenities that we talked about. So we kind of, when we went through the concept plan last year with the HCH, we kind of came up with 7 main items that we'd like to see worked through and whatnot, and just to put those out on the table here. The first one was amenities to be included and to be determined at a later date, which the applicants have talked about the gazebos, the walking trails, the community center, things of that nature, flagpole area that they reworked, those types of things to build more of a community, not just a residential chicken coop mindset. Another one was the quantity of units from 88 to 142. They produced a plan showing 142 units, so that's something we'll discuss. The final purchase price was to be determined between HCH and the RDIC. The purchase price is not part of this board's review, just for public's note. That's something that the RDIC board and the applicant have worked through. That's been all, Dick and Michelle are on the RDIC board. They're also on this review board. But that's already been predetermined and worked out, and really, it's not really a condition of this board anymore. Just the fact that it got worked out, which it did. Case closed on that. The lot line on the southwest side to be moved off of the roadway, with the final lot line to be determined. So that's where that town byway, if you will, is. We wanted to keep ownership of that roadway area and push the lot line up off of that, which they have done, which has been worked through with the A&R lot approval by the planning board. The town's approved all that, the 3 lots, so that they've checked that box. That seems to be
Chris, you said southwest?
That's southeast. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yep, all right, that's fine.
Yep. Thank you, Doug. 5 was to maintain existing walking trails and grant necessary easements. So those walking trails would be open to all the public of Rutland, not just members of this association and people that would own a condo here. So anybody in the town would be available to use those walking trails. Is that correct?
Is that the existing trail that's there now?
We're assuming we're very close to that because
I think, Wes,
Down on the bottom?
there's a walking trail that we're trying to connect to.
Along the.
Because right now, we talked about going in there, there is a path now going to almost to the very corner.
Dick, is there a fence there coming down
Right,
that?
right to the chain anchor,
Up at the very top,
well, that fence goes all the way around.
Correct.
And
there's sort of a.
if you keep
paved
coming
road this
over,
way.
just,
So the north and the west, and then the south side of the
it
lot.
goes, there's a pathway right now that goes right down here and patches on and then right around the edges. If this is all yours, is right here, this is where it is.
Okay.
We went around the wetland at the bottom, you
And
drew
you
your
went
line
what?
through it. You drew your line through the wetland, but we went up around the
So,
wetland.
okay, so, they
Yeah, we didn't want to touch the isolated wetland here.
yeah, all right, but I'm gonna say that trail went all the way down. all
We
the
can
way around.
definitely locate it and figure out how to tie into it.
It's not on our property once you get down there.
Yeah. So if it's off the property,
Well, did you go to, that's one of the things I should have asked at the planning board. Did your line go right to the chain anchor fence?
No.
It did not.
Our path, the walking path that we're showing now,
no, he means the boundary
The
line.
boundary.
The lot line.
That's
Well,
what, that's one of the reasons why.
it does on the western and the northern property line. We encompass all the town property, all the
Yes,
RDIC property, yes,
You do.
yes.
yes.
But not on the-
So-
Is that chain link fence on
To
the
your-
property line?
Yes, it is.
Or is it
Actually,
inside it on the town line?
it's actually inside.
So then they would own, then that
I-
fence would be on their property
That is correct.
by a foot or 2 or 6 inches or whatever it is.
So one of the things that we'll have to take a look at is, one of the requirements is to have a buffer on the boundary lines.
There is.
And I believe it has to be landscaped and vegetated. I don't believe you can have
I believe,
a
yeah,
walking trail in it. But if it's already there and it's existing,
yeah.
I'll definitely go to the site and make sure I understand exactly what you're talking about, because it does encompass the boundary lines that you're discussing, and you're probably way more familiar with the site than I am.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't doubt you that the walking trail that's there now is probably outside what we're designing here.
It is.
And as long as we can connect and there's no, negative impact, I don't see why we couldn't do that.
So Wes, the dash line that comes in from the solid line on this western line, is that the buffer? Is that the 20-foot buffer?
So I show. There's two different dash lines here.
Well, there's only one on the
On the
west.
westerly line,
right.
it's the property line offset.
Right.
The existing one up at the top.
Yeah.
But it's not there.
Used to come around that way.
See what's up that corner?
So we're on
Goes down to the
the
existing
30-foot
house.
buffer,
What about
and
going
one
to
is
the
the
right?
property
Isn't
line
the trail
offset.
go to the right? And go to the right?
'Cause you get two on the south side.
Correct.
So
those
obviously
are-
the short one, the closest one's the offset, and the other one's the 30-foot. And that other one looks in the same distance as the western, the single one, right?
So
Access
it's-
to that
it's-
walking
So that's the
trail.
30-foot buffer.
Ends in
And
that.
the property line offset.
That's perfect.
Okay.
But isn't it what we wanted?
All right, so, not to get, belabored in this, but, I guess if it's possible, Attorney and Wes, if you guys could look, and see where that existing walking path is, and if it's something you can incorporate into a portion of this, understanding we gotta be away from the wetlands, we need room for the retention basins, but if that's something that we can work within and try to pick up as best we can, is that amenable for you, Dick?
That would
We'll
be.
take a look at it, so just,
All right.
I know off the top of my head, anything that's in this location here, that's that paved driveway that you can come up, that's all being taken out and loamed and seeded, and it's all getting regraded as part of getting the driveway in and the units in. So all of that's gonna get removed.
All right.
This will be the new start of the walkway across the street from that parking lot.
Okay, yeah.
And we'll take a look at, really, I think what you're looking at is, the best we could do is maybe tie in down here to the other walkway.
You keep on going and or back around.
Yeah, and you can get up here, and we were trying to, again, as Ron had stated, stay away from the wetlands as much as we could. obviously to keep the Conservation Commission happy, to make sure that we're not filling any wetlands.
Keep that
But
up.
also on that lower portion, there was the isolated wetlands. If we start filling that,
Yeah, no,
wetland
that's,
becomes an issue.
the lower portions, I can see where you would make your
Right.
way
So
around
here's,
it.
and this is, we were trying to look at the areas.
Thank you, Peter.
Cool.
Excuse me one second, Jim Crandon has a
So
question.
as part of this walking path discussion is, I suppose, any paths that you're taking over or connecting to on your property, I assume you're also, the homeowners association is also picking up responsibility to maintain them.
Yes.
Otherwise, if there's areas that doesn't make sense, or that doesn't meet your plans, that should be pretty clearly stated.
Yeah,
in
that,
your-
we'll definitely
you
take
got
that
what
into
I'm going through.
consideration,
Yeah.
absolutely.
An unmaintained trail that
It's
doesn't
not
last
gonna do
long.
anybody any good.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, yeah, yes, Michelle, go ahead.
But then, doesn't that make it more of a private trail and not available to to the townspeople who currently use it?
Does what make it not available?
If it's being built and maintained on the HCH property, which is gonna be a private community, it's not gonna be public access, right? Like, the roads are gonna be private, it's a private driveway rather than a
Correct.
roadway.
Yes.
So does that mean that, that people can't use it? It would be limited to just the community?
That's something that Peter and I were talking about too, and we have to have that conversation about how we can achieve that.
How we can incorporate so that the public can have access with respect to the privacy of the unit owners, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, the way we had shown the proposed path is it does come out across the street from a parking area, such that if anybody were to come into the site to use the walking path, they can park across the street
Right here, Michelle.
and use that walking path.
See where this enters right here?
So that
Yeah.
they will have
Then you the
access.
parking here.
Right, but I guess, would it be okay for the public to park in there?
Well,
if
that's-
it's private.
That's something we're gonna have to work with.
That is the intent of the
Okay.
applicant, it's just a matter of legality, that's what we were talking about. is-
And as
Got it.
Dick mentioned, tying it into the other trail here would allow the public access from wherever they get access right now.
Right, right, right.
And then potentially the way this dumps out down by the pond,
Yeah.
that could be something else they could consider as well. And or even if they continued it, possibly over to the school, where you have access from that parking lot, that's a public,
Yeah.
maybe we could discuss cutting through that woods there,
Yeah,
Dick. And
exactly.
tying that into that parking lot
Yeah.
there, it's really would be a really nice, it's a huge parking lot there.
Yeah, and
That'd
that's
be,
town
that'd be a
land.
good, that's town land, wouldn't be an issue for it.
Okay.
We could get you that access to cut a little pathway through there, and that might be an option to
Yeah,
tie it all together there
Okay.
too. So, just some ideas for you, but
Right,
that's something we can,
just work out
put down
cross
on the to-do
easements
list.
between the town and
Exactly.
and
Yes.
the project.
That's a question, Chris.
yeah, go ahead. No.
Should that be an association vote in terms of whether they want to use that for the general public?
Well, I think it's more of a thing that we've discussed as part of the concept plan that, there's an existing trail there. It's certainly a big part of our community. We don't want to lose that as a Rutland item to just this small part of Rutland community.
Right, but it's
So
not
we
like-
want to try to maintain that public access to that. Now, we also want to work with these guys to let them kind of build it within their shape and form of what they're trying to build here. So if we can just try to maintain access, they're gracious enough to maintain the trail and
Yeah.
keep it up, which is a benefit to the town.
See, one of the
Yeah.
things I was hoping that the town would still own that part of it,
Yeah.
because I wanted access, a second egress, either to the dump, but mostly to the dam, in case something ever happened with the other egress. Number one, and number two, if the town ever wanted to put a road in down to Kenwood, to make it along that upper end to get to Kenwood.
But how-
Originally, until all of a sudden, you guys came up, that's what we were talking about, our town center survey and all that jazz. We were in the process of what should we be doing with the property and
Okay.
road works and things like that. And that was one of the things that was being pursued. Because we're trying to get traffic off of Main Street for, picking and dropping kids off. So anyways,
Yeah,
that's
so,
why.
so back to the point, I think it's gonna be very difficult, Dick, to maintain public ownership of that.
Yeah.
And I think that we're kind of down the stream from that right now. And I really think it's best interest of the town to let these guys take it over, let them maintain. It's not a cost we have to bear going down the road. And if we can still maintain access for all the people in town for that, I think it's a win-win personally. And but we have to, I think we just have to agree a little bit to let them move it around a little bit, and let them reshape it a little bit, put a few curves in it, ain't gonna hurt nobody. And if it helps them kind of working within their plan, you do have the issue right here of the wetlands up in the corner, that thing probably goes through right now, that, you know, that's, you know, I mean, what you did in the 50s ain't what you do in the 2000s.
The state and
You
the government had put all their grindings and things like that in
Route 2 was built through the swamp, you know,
Yeah,
can't do that today,
I know.
you know.
But, I mean, it is higher than the ground right beside it, so.
So, all right, so, anyways, you guys get back to us on some ideas you got
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
We can keep working towards an agreement there. The other, getting back to the 7 items that we had on our concept plan, the lot line we had, the walking trails, the 2 access roads in and out of the community. The board felt that was very important. I know there's traffic studies that'll say this and that, the other thing, but I think as a voice, we felt that was pretty important to maintain the safety and the smooth egress for just those people that are going to be up there with 142 units.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yep,
Okay, you said it was gonna be gated.
he did, but there's been some conversation, before we get into that, there's been some conversation about gates, no gates. We talked about it the last time. We, as a board, had agreed no gates.
Right,
An
okay,
open road, but again, that's something we'll get into.
okay.
I
right.
think that's
There is currently a gate there.
correct.
Yeah, but that's way down towards the front. That was only because there's nobody up there, and we didn't want kids and everybody else driving
So-
around up there and
I was just
whatever.
trying to control some of the madness that was going on up there.
Okay,
Because that's what happens. You
But-
open, and that's my concern, you open that area up, and that's where they end up going.
okay.
And there's a lot of roads up there to, hide and whatever.
But once the construction get going and the phasing started working,
Oh, yeah,
I
no.
think that would be,
That would be
we
open.
could take the gate out and you guys would be on your own there. And
The gate is open
I mean, kids always go to construction sites. I have to tell you, that ain't gonna change. But anyways, the good old days. The last item on this list here is is just working through all the final site plans within the town's bylaws and subject to the relevant department boards, which we've sent some things out. We've sent some things out. We've only heard back, I believe, from the Conservation Commission. And have we heard back from anybody else?
Planning board had no comment.
Planning board, no comment.
I can't speak to the town departments,
I
but
can
Dave
get
would
to
know.
that,
Dave?
if I could. Yeah, so we, as required in the Article 5 of the HPD bylaw, the application, the plans, and the submittal materials were submitted broadly to all the various town departments and individual staff members, so forth. We received no substantial comments. We did have the IRT meeting, it's a departmental review team, which is a subset of the applicants, of the entities who were required to get notice anyways. We didn't get any substantial comments back from any of those parties.
And that includes the fire chief
That's correct.
reviewing
Fire, chief of police,
the layout.
DPW.
Yeah,
All right, so yeah, great point there. Did I hear something? Was there something that the fire department reached out to you, attorney?
No, I think in the peer review, the person that did the peer review from Quinn was hoping to get some feedback from the fire chief
From the fire
on some
department, okay.
specific
On some
points. Yeah.
Okay.
We just had to review the spacing of the hydrants. Was what he was looking at. And so I know we did look at it when we had that department head meeting. And the fire chief was there, the police chief was there, and the fire chief, at least in first look, he didn't have a real issue with it, because we did have a fair number of hydrants up there.
Yeah, I know there's not a lot of measurements on these drawings, and we'll get right to you there, sir, one second.
I do.
So, without the measurements on there, it's hard to say if they're right on the 500-foot line,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
But, staying on the macro, I don't want to get into too much of the micro right now tonight. But those are things we can certainly dig into.
No, and so
That was one of Quinn's things to.
correct, and that's what like I said, if you want to go through Quinn's letter, we could kind of stick with the
Sure.
bigger items that we wanted to discuss.
I hope to get to
forward.
that tonight, Wes.
Okay.
Yeah, I certainly do. Dick, go ahead.
If you look at any of the old pictures of the old Vets Hospital up there, what do you see sticking way the heck up there? Water tower. Therefore, a long time ago, I'm going to say it started back in the 70s, that they had problems with water. They were going to put a water tank where the old fire station is, but they didn't do it. Then they were going to enlarge the water line into the center of town, which they didn't do. And when we had a couple of subdivisions built, they had a very water problem with low pressure at the far end. I talked to the chief about this, and I says, have you done a water study lately at all? I says, they went ahead, they were talking about putting a water tower up at the heights. They, all of a sudden, it snuck in a double tower on Rice Hill, which is the tallest hill we have for the in town here, where the water towers are, instead of putting one up there. But till this day, I still not have heard a report back from any engineering or whatever, if they had a fire, Bunnell or wherever over in that neck of the woods, do they have enough water here or at this particular location?
So if I could just touch on to what you're
Please.
asking. And so when we had the department head meeting, the DPW director did state that he was gonna take a look at, so I guess they have a model of the water system. And he was gonna put our project into that model and take a look at how this affects that model. And I know at the time, he said we may have to go out there and do a couple of hydrant tests to get him some updated information, but he hasn't requested that as of yet. So I could try reaching out to him and see if he needs hydrant tests to be done to update his model. But he does have a model that he does put these projects into, so maybe he has more information that
I hope so.
maybe he hasn't shared with everybody, that's all.
Because I've been reading town reports good many years, but anyways, it is a situation which I don't want you people hung with.
Yep.
So,
So what you're saying is there's a lack of pressure at the top of that hill?
Yeah. If I could just read, I was gonna ask the same question.
oh,
because
sorry.
There was a water tower, I mean, I live across the street.
Yep.
And we knew for a long time that the Heights had the problems with the pressure up there because of the height of especially at the top of that hill.
Correct, yeah.
And I don't know if you're gonna be doing townhouses or
Single
was it
story.
just ranch or?
Yeah, just right, yeah,
Okay,
single story.
but again,
Single
it's
story?
just being on top of that hill, you're gonna have a lot of trouble getting it because the water pressure was just kind of enough to get over the center of town, all right? And then when you go down, it was fine. So, yes, you're right. We talked about putting in where the old firehouse is. We talked about a lot of different things. But that really is something you should look at.
I hope they do I don't want you to get in the middle of it.
Should we draft a memo to the DPW to bring, are they the ones responsible to figure out what the water pressure is out there by your house at Main Street?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Well, my house
then provide, should we provide a baseline for these guys to engineer off of?
So typically what we, just so, not,
Go
typically
ahead.
what we do
Please,
is
Les.
we'll coordinate hydrant flow tests with them
Yeah.
to figure out what the pressures are at the hydrants closest to the site.
All right.
And so what I can do is I can reach out to the director and see if we can set that
Terrific.
up.
Good man.
And he may already have that information. Like I
He might.
said, he seemed pretty comfortable with the model that he had to put this project into it and do the analysis.
When we build the big warehouses, that's the first thing they always do. They get the flow test out there in the street
Yeah.
to design fire pumps and whatever and this is, even though this is not a sprinkler facility with being all small units, but
Yeah, we want to make
you've
sure.
got the square footage of
Yeah.
a
Yeah, we wanna
Amazon
make sure we
here.
have fire
Right.
protection at the top.
And it's wood stick. It's not even, concrete tilt plank walls or
Yep.
anything, so. Yeah, good point. It's a good concern because they're pretty tight up there too. So. All right, thank you. Just a couple other things just to bring up. There was a memo from the Conservation Commission, as Tamika said. They had a few, just want to address their questions, get them out there so everybody's seen it. I take it you've seen this. One thing, did you guys send Quinn's engineering report to the Conservation Board Commission? They do request that.
I do see that, we'll take care of that. We got the report late
It's
today.
good today,
We'll
yeah.
get to that. The
Okay.
applicant does have the Quinn report, and
All right.
there's anything else that was sent out today.
Thank you, Dave. Awesome. The commission requested a report from Quinn following the review of the stormwater system. Additionally, they've requested details on the material being used for the walking trail due to its close proximity to the wetland up in that northwest corner, as well as who would be responsible for maintaining it, which we've already discussed. We would also like a copy of the O&M report from construction, during construction, and copy of the stormwater, plan, so prevention plan. So again, it's all the stuff we've talked about. These guys seem like they're on it, but just items to keep checking off as we go along here. Work through the next meeting. Dave George, the town planner here, also prepped a few items for tonight's meeting. Just stating that, as he mentioned before, he's distributed all the plans as per our bylaw to all the town departments that have to receive these plans. he's executed all those, got them all the departments, and again, the Conservation Commission is the only one that's gotten back to us, or had any comments anyways. He's done the interdepartmental review with them. This hearing's been posted. Quinn has done a preliminary peer review. We just received that report today from them. I briefly went through it and hope to get into that report right after this. The applicant's also been requested, as we talked about, a traffic study, lighting plan, and rendering of the units, and they can provide more information on that as we go forward. And again, the matter was heard last night by the Conservation Commission, and they had their issues. So, with that being said, that's kind of all the public information that's kind of gone back and forth for everybody, just to bring everybody in the room up to speed, make sure the applicant has all the information that we know about. And what do you say, Wes? We get into that Quinn Engineering report.
So I'm going to, when I can read them, or if you want me to read the major ones and the minor ones that I think is going to be more technical conversation with Quinn. So number one, we already talked about. Really, number one, that was the reason I wanted to go over those five or six points that you guys have to review your plans.
Yep.
Number two, I'm going to make a change to the plan. Number three, we did already ask for a handful of waivers from the subdivision rules and regulations as part of Quinn's review.
Yep.
There are going to be additional waiver requests that we're going to add to that. Different items of the subdivision rules and regulations and different items of your regulations that we may add to it.
Okay.
And this is one of them because we look at it as driveways. We're not looking at it public ways, and the regulation reads, is it a public way or street? We need to provide this information. We're looking at it as driveways, and typically we don't provide certain information because we look at it as a site plan. It's a different animal in our eyes.
To clarify that, on this project, there's individual owner driveways, and then there's the circular road.
The main driveway that's going to be owned by the association.
And the main driveway that's owned by the association, is that being done to subdivision standards or a lesser amount?
Subdivision standards.
Yes, okay. That's what I thought.
Except for the waivers.
Yep.
And we'll go over those waivers, and they're at the end of the letter by Quinn.
So so there are some waivers and some leniency they're looking for in some of those regulations.
But the main items of your subdivision rules and regulations, we do meet those main items.
Right.
You know, being the grade of the road, the width of the pavement.
Correct.
So
one of the items they had on there was the sub base rather than the 24 inches. I think you were proposing 12 inches or something.
Yeah.
So something like that, that's one of the waivers they had.
Part of the intent of the road profile, when it's a subdivision, the intention is at the end of the day, the roadways are gonna be built to town specs so that when the town accepts them, there's an as-built plan that accompanies that. None of that will take place with this project because the roadways are gonna be owned and maintained by the association. So there won't be a process at the end of the development where they come and say, hey, accept these roadways and the roadway utilities.
And again, that's something we've got to just weigh. We have the authority just to dictate if we want to allow that. Again, the association's got to pay the cost of the upgrade of the asphalt down the road. Not us, not the town. So the town would want it built, to last forever, so to speak. Whereas the association, I mean, they're the ones going to be paying it. So, but again, we want to protect those people too. We don't want this road to wash out in 2 years, and so those types of things we just got to work through and work through. Go ahead.
Number 5, so I'm going to skip over nothing number 4. Number 5 is a question I have for the board. Now, typically when we do site plans or grading plans, we don't usually have them signed by the board because we don't record those plans. We don't do our site plans to registry standard to record them. And so the way typically, and Peter and I were talking about this earlier today too, is typically the decision gets recorded. And sometimes we will put together a decision sheet that gets signed and recorded, and then that would get recorded with the land plan that's already been approved by the planning board. But I'm not sure, this is a completely different animal. I know this is the only project that this board has done.
Yeah.
We could do it either way. We just don't typically record our site plans. We can you can endorse them, we just won't record them because they're not done to registry standard to record them. And that's typically how we do subdivisions too. I know when we do subdivisions, it's just the land plans that are signed and endorsed and recorded. It's not the actual grading plans that are recorded. So it's a question that, and we don't have to answer tonight.
Yeah.
But it's something we can add to the plan if you guys still want to sign them, but we just won't record the actual design plan. Typically that they get referred to in the decision.
Yeah, the order conditions or something.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So we don't, it doesn't matter to us, we just didn't know how you wanted to handle that.
Yeah, and I think, to what degree, the plan has to be modified or whatever amount, quantity of conditions we would amend to a drawing may dictate that too. So let's keep that out there. And,
So that was a question for us.
Yeah. Okay.
6 and 8, I want to have a conversation with Quinn about in regards to that. And then
Yep.
7, we're going to do with the traffic analysis, should be to the board before our next meeting.
Okay,
So that'll
great.
be taken care of.
That's a big topic. Yep.
Number 9 had to do with the landscaping along the side and rear yard setbacks to buffer adjoining uses. Tamika, can I bug you to put the
Yep.
site plan up for a second, please? So the whole area that we were concerned about is this section here. So there's no landscaping now in here, it's all pavement. And so that's the existing driveway. And so we're proposing to grass it, but the slope that we are showing here doesn't really lend itself to great landscaping. There is a fair amount of trees between this and the middle school, and so we weren't showing any landscaping.
That drops off back towards the
It
woodline?
does, yes, yeah.
Does it?
Yeah, especially with the way the road grading and everything's gonna work, there's gonna be a little bit of a drop there, about 6 or 7 feet that'll drop off to the back there. And so there's not a lot of, usable space to really put substantial landscaping in the back there. So we're gonna have it grassed, and then the existing tree line will stay along that property line on the other side of that fence. And that's really where our landscaping is gonna be, that our buffer to the middle school, and the project is gonna be what's there now, which is.
Okay, so what Wes is referring to here in these HPD bylaws, we're gonna have that 30-foot landscape buffer.
Yeah.
They're just gonna grass it, kind of using the wood line that's on the town. That's town property, correct?
It is.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
So we're kind of just using that as the buffer. So what's your thoughts on that? I
I'm
mean,
happy.
you're good with that?
Yeah.
Just let them grass it and
Yeah.
use the existing wood line? Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole lot of trees there, and I don't know what the hell they
Yeah,
use that land
It's
for.
probably a
It's
few
a lot
hundred
of
feet.
it's-
Surely I don't know how you
Several
build right up to the lot
yeah,
line there.
Just
I
like
mean,
several hundred feet of trees, a couple hundred feet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least, yeah. And then on the other property lines, we're leaving natural vegetation on the other boundaries.
does anybody know if any of that's wet in there?
Wet and
Because I see
where?
the wet coming
On
off
the
that
north side?
northwest corner. Yeah, up on that
That's
north
pretty
side
There
of
may
there.
be a small,
Over onto the west.
Just off to the side?
because everything kind of comes back around and then wraps through this property,
Got
back
it.
down to
Okay.
the pond to the
So it's pretty
south.
usable land,
Yes.
as long as it's a swamp. If it's a swamp,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah, if the town ever wanted to expand the middle school property, they could. Yes.
Okay, all right, I think that's fine. We could work with
Number
that
10,
one.
a landscape strip is required along the front lot line, and then they defer to the board on what landscaping. Like I stated before, the basin location really is dictated by the grade. It has to be in this location. There's nowhere else we could put the basin. It gets fairly steep in here, so we really can't, and we didn't want to get into playing with the existing depression that's in the corner there.
Sidewalk's on the other side, right?
The sidewalk is on the
On
other
the
side,
other
yes.
side,
Yes. And then we do show, like I said, we are showing our landscaping and our entrance sign as you come into the project on your right-hand
Okay,
side.
you get a sidewalk, kind of, as your sidewalk kind of curls up north, you've got a crosswalk going across that
Crosswalk,
road,
and then a new handicap ramp to tie into the
tied to the
existing.
existing sidewalk on that side.
Yes. Yep.
Right.
And so everything will be tied into that.
I mean, the sidewalk's not on that side. If he's gonna run the retention basin up to it, does anybody have a problem with that?
No.
No.
I mean,
So the sidewalk just goes up to our property and stops?
Nope, it ties into so the
the
It's all the
sidewalks,
way through.
There is no
Go ahead,
sidewalk on that
Rutland
property.
Heights
Yeah,
Way
it's on the
sidewalk.
Huh?
The
There's no
Rutland Heights
property-
Way
there's no
sidewalk
sidewalk
leads
there.
all the way up this way, and we're gonna tie right into it.
there's a sidewalk over there.
In that little piece of land between the parking lot and our property?
No, he's talking about
The main road,
The main
Rutland
road.
Heights Way,
Right.
Up to
When
that
you hit,
point
when-
there
right where
is.
your fingertips were, that's where the sidewalk stops.
Correct.
up here.
And the
the lot
sidewalk is
line.
on the right side.
He's gonna,
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm too far away from you, yeah,
So
okay.
we're gonna tie in, and then
Yeah.
you can at least walk down Rutland Heights Way
Yeah,
back out to
that's
Maple
fine.
Ave and
Yep.
to the center of town.
Yep,
So there will be a pedestrian connection there.
so as the sidewalk comes down,
yep.
retention basin's on the other side. It's gotta come up to the edge of that roadway, but I mean,
Yeah, like I said,
And
site
it's
constraints,
on
we
the road,
really,
yeah.
we had to do something there. It was something that we looked at there, and the only other area that we were looking at is the small patch across the street, but there's such a steep slope, it didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of where we put it there.
And it is
And we were also out of the
It does
400
make
foot
sense,
zone.
yeah,
It
and it
is
does
steep
make
over there,
sense.
so.
Yes. So next one is landscaped islands. So you have a requirement about landscaped island in your site planning. standards. The size of our parking lots aren't very big. I think the biggest one over here is maybe 18 spaces. And so I know in your requirement, it talks about greater than 25 spaces, so we don't meet that requirement in here. We do show, I think it's 18 and 16 spaces, so we don't show any islands in there. And again, it was something that's, he wasn't sure if the board wanted to put any kind of islands. For the size of parking areas we show, we didn't think it was really necessary. It kind of defeated the purpose of what we were trying to do, because then we'd have to create an additional parking space outside of that island. We just thought it'd be better maintenance-wise to keep everything into one compressed area, especially when they come and plow those areas.
Exactly, bingo, right there.
I know our guys hate islands, right? So,
Oh, God, islands are.
yeah, and especially for like the parking lots of this size, they're so small, we didn't think it would be.
And again, just to be the devil's advocate, you got a big asphalt area, big impervious area. You know, it's not Walmart, but I mean, it's a parking lot. You know, I personally, I don't have a problem with it, but I just want to make sure everyone on the board understands that, you know, to put like a set of islands in the middle, it breaks it up. You know, but personally, I just think, yeah, they're gonna tear them up every winter, kind of lot, and it looks worse than, you know, if you think a parking lot looks bad, it's gonna look worse when they're just beat to hell.
Right.
You know, I don't see any problem not having those on that particular parking lot.
So I'm going to skip ahead to number 15 now.
Okay.
The other items are items that we already add to the plan or talked
Sure.
about.
Yep.
So number 15 is now under your senior housing bylaw, and this is where I know we've had a lot of conversation in the last year during a lot of our project meetings with the town, trying to get to this point about what regulations hold and which ones don't. So now the HPDD regulations within the zoning district call for certain buffers to property lines. Now the senior housing has other buffers. And so he had questions regards to the required setbacks, and it wasn't clear to them, and he wasn't sure if the board should be the one that has that conversation or if it should be the building inspector. And that's
The
where.
board's the one that will determine that. We will determine that, Wes. And that's part of a big conversation I want to have possibly tonight about the general quantity of units, the setbacks, the distances we have between units, you know, both sideways and back to back.
Yeah.
Those are the things, that's one of the biggest things I want to get behind us, first off.
And so the only item, at least with regards to the senior housing regulation that we saw that was different from the senior housing in the HPD regulation,
Yeah.
would be the buffer to the northern property. So it talks about single-family residential zoning. Technically, this is a residential zoning, but we know it's not single-family. You know, it's not resident zoning. It's an institution, right? And so that was the only section that we saw in regards to does it need to meet that requirement? Because we show 40 feet between the back of the unit and the offset, which meets this board's regulations, the zoning district regulation. But the senior housing regulation calls for a different buffer if you're next to a single family.
And what's their buffer?
50 feet.
50, thank you.
And that's where that trade-off is, and that's what one of the things is. I know we've talked a ton with David beforehand about waivers and so forth like that, and that's something I know even Quinn was talking about. We're trying to figure out, okay, now is that another waiver we have to add to the list to this board to take a look at as part of this process?
You know, it might be a formal way of making sure we close the loop on it, okay, Wes, if we would allow the 40-foot versus
Yeah.
a 50-foot. We've had some conversations, Dave, before where the way I understand it, David, and I'd like to reaffirm your opinion, but this board has the latitude to go, I mean, where the HPD, you know, has the lesser standard. We have the full ability to go to that 40-foot rather than be stuck to the 50-foot of a true 55 community, correct?
I think it's even simpler that in this 24/5, it specifically says a minimum 30-foot buffer shall be provided at the rear and side district lines of HPD.
And that's what we
The
provide.
board may require larger, but the board doesn't have to require larger. And then it gets into other requirements, and then C, it says all structures and uses shall comply with the town of Rutland zoning bylaw. I think the prevailing notion is that if it's called out specifically in Article 5, that's gonna take precedence, because that's specifically stated in the HPD bylaw itself. Where it doesn't specifically call it out in the HPDD bylaw, then you go to the other bylaw, which is the town of Rutland zoning bylaw for other aspects. So I think in this case, your 30-foot controls, that the 50 does not control, because 30 is listed here specifically.
Yeah.
So we're well within our bounds without a waiver.
That's what
Without
I
a
would
waiver.
be advising.
Perfect.
This
And
board could
that's
allow
where-
that without, that's the way,
Yeah, and that's like I said, Quinn was, because there's a lot of language in all the different bylaws, he
Oh,
wasn't
trust
sure
me.
which one was,
too many rules and
which
laws
rule,
today.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
I
that,
think that's exactly, sorry to interrupt, I think that's exactly it. Quinn, if this was the ordinary subdivision, we're looking at the zoning bylaw, the open space in particular, and the subdivision regs. In this case here, we're looking at several different bylaws and several different regulations that all have to harmonize. So, I think,
And I was around on the RDIC when that was created, and the intent was to give this review board latitude
yes,
to allow, to meet the intent of the Rutland Heights bylaws, and that this is not just an average, run-of-your-mill planning board subdivision.
Right.
That whatever would happen up here is going to need certain tweaks and things to fit this property, to work with an applicant, to get somebody up here to develop this property. So the town certainly built that latitude in there to help develop this property and come to a project like this. So, so I think we're all in agreement here that that's pretty much the way this is gonna roll.
perfect, and that's
Right along
why
here.
we just want to make sure
Yeah.
that that was the intent, because we
Yeah.
wanted to make sure if
Good.
we had to ask for another waiver, we would add it to
Michelle?
the list.
Yes, and I don't have a problem with this, especially where it's abutting the town property up there.
Yeah, exactly.
But we don't set a precedent against ourselves, though, do we, on the other lots? Because I could see where Mosio might not want something 30 feet, like closer to a property line where there's an abutter existing there.
Yeah, I mean, again, we have the 30-foot rule that we can go up to.
So we
So we're not gonna
Right.
get closer than that,
Okay.
right?
So
We're not gonna
meet
get
the-
closer than
we
that.
meet the 30-foot.
I mean, they would need they would need like a waiver on that.
Yes.
And let's
Got
face it,
it.
30 feet, guys, I mean, you're pushing it right there.
Yeah.
That's pretty lenient, okay?
Alright.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have to be wild here and allow any more than that. He's 40 right here,
Right.
which is
And that's the
generous
tightest
as well to the 30 feet.
And our intent was to kind of compress everything as close
Yeah.
to that, because we knew it was the school property, we weren't near anything, and
Yes.
if anything happened to the south, was at the east, at least we were kind of
You
further
got plenty
away
of
from
buffer
it.
there.
Got it, yeah,
And to the
yeah.
west, we still have that buffer to the west, and I know
Yes.
their
Fields
disturbance,
and
their fields
forest.
are a decent amount away too, they're a few
Right,
hundred feet
right,
away.
right.
Yeah,
from
the 30-foot buffer gives them
They're
some leniency.
secluded up there. Yeah,
It
they're
gives them some
secluded.
ability to really pack something in, so to speak.
Okay.
But our latitude, really, we can pull it back to 40, 50 feet if we want to, because we're the board. So,
Yeah, so
not
but
to be
even on
arrogant,
other-
but that's our authority.
Right, but my question is, if we allow this one, that doesn't mean that we'd have to allow it on the other
No,
two lots, right?
absolutely not.
Each lot is separate in its own.
Every situation's separate, Michelle,
it.
and this is not a wide open, do what you want, Wild West show.
Yep,
It's gotta be in the best interest of this town.
yes,
And I feel that this
is,
is at this
Yes.
time. And we're gonna look at every situation like that, and that's why
Okay.
we're gonna make these decisions, yeah.
And the other requirements in the senior housing bylaw and the HPDD bylaw, we do meet all those other offset requirements.
Yeah.
That was the one that stuck it on my mind, because there was a confusion there, and we went by this zoning district's bylaw.
Okay,
Other than that, we meet both requirements.
okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter which one you were to use, we meet both of those.
okay.
Thank you, Wes.
I'm gonna skip ahead to 19, because we did talk about it real quick.
Yep.
The fire chief, Quinn recommended that we solicit comments from the fire chief, which I know he was submitted the plans.
Yep.
It talks about adequacy of access, and I'll touch on it again, as we do show 2 points of access, 24-foot wide and 20-foot wide. I know dealing with the fire departments in the state, they require 20-foot wide width of
Minimum.
minimum.
Yeah.
Some guys will allow gravel, some guys will want all pavement, we show all pavement for 20 feet.
That's the way it's
to
gonna
make
be.
sure, and that's the way.
It's gonna be a paved road all the way through.
Yeah.
We've had some considerable discussion on this, and I believe, as a board, we're pretty adamant, the best thing for this town going forward is to get that paved, cleaned up. Let's get this place looking nice on that hill.
Yeah.
Get the right road in there right now. We got someone that's, we're gonna work with you guys, you're willing to help us out with that. We've got the help with, we've got some, I don't wanna use the wrong terminology here, but, having the town help work with DCR so that you guys can accomplish this, I think is the best thing for both of us. And at the end of the day, the town's gonna benefit, as well as all the people, and it's gonna be a nice, beautiful end to the project for you guys to help sell up there too as well. So I think that's the way we wanna approach this, Wes, okay?
Yep. And then it talks about building separation, which we show 20-foot minimum building separation.
Is that the 55 and over?
So
It's Susie's left, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah, so typically we show 20 feet, so you don't get
Oh,
into
neighbor?
the fires, well, fire safety reasons, then you get, the closer you get to the buildings, then you have different fire ratings for the walls in the buildings, so.
Okay.
And so that's what,
So that's a big-
I'm pretty sure that's where that comment's coming from, to make sure that he's comfortable with the
Just coming
separation.
from the separation.
Correct.
But you said Susie's less.
Yes.
Yeah.
His unit's pretty big up there too.
Yep.
They're bigger than these. From
Yep.
just a
Yeah.
quick glance at it.
Yeah.
I mean, the actual, yeah, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
And then the last thing is obviously when we talked about it, the flow test for fire protection.
Yep.
Which we have no problem.
Okay.
The
The hydrants, yeah, we'll work through that.
Yeah, catch basins,
Catch
road
basins.
side. Oh, 23. Sidewalks are required to be separated by the roadway by a grass strip.
Yeah,
And so we
I
don't.
like the grass strip, Wes, I do.
When we had a long conversation about the grass strip too, and we know aesthetically, when it's originally built, looks great.
Yeah.
But in the lifetime of a project, that grass strip usually gets chewed up and killed by a lot of the salt and sand that gets done on the streets.
I'll
We're
give you
trying
that.
to,
I'll give you that.
and so the other thing too is when we start looking at that is what will end up happening is on some of the different units, because they have couple different unit types in this development.
What is the distance, the unit to that roadway edge,
So on edge of,
curb edge?
edge of the back of the sidewalk to the front of the longest unit is about 10 feet, 8 inches, almost 11 feet. And so if we were to put a 5-foot grass strip, we would have a 5-foot grass strip, the sidewalk, and then another 5-foot grass strip between the front of the building.
Wow.
It gets close.
Yeah.
It's
I
not,
thought about that, it's gonna look kind of ridiculous. You know?
and that's what we were looking at, is
I mean, it does.
aesthetically, you know, the way we show it is kind of what we were leaning toward, because it's maintenance-wise, it makes it a lot easier for the association to maintain over the years, but it also gives more green space between the back of the sidewalk and the front of the units. And we were trying to compress everything to kind of reduce the amount of impervious surface as much as we could. We're showing this to give them enough room for one parking spot behind the sidewalk, but not anything more than that one parking spot behind the sidewalk to limit the amount of impervious surface up here.
So as a board, what's your opinion?
It's interesting because I'm looking at the sidewalk, the grass, the whole thing. One of the things I didn't like was the Cape Cod berm,
Yep.
because I'm thinking of it, you've got senior people walking right next to the road. If you don't have any grass there, now they're gonna be right on the road, and you got that Cape Cod berm, which you can just roll right over. So you need to have something as protected to have these cars from, if you have a regular
Regular curb and 9-inch
curb there, at least you got that there. They're gonna hit and bounce or whatever. But if there's nothing there, and it's just the Cape Cod berm, they can just ride right up over it.
And the thing with the Cape Cod berm and the sidewalk, it becomes a parking spot.
Exactly.
People are gonna pull up and just park. I got a property in Worcester, I got a church there, the neighbors park right up, I got an 8-10-foot sidewalk there. It's our land, but they park right up on the thing. And it's just easy to do off the Cape Cod berm.
I can tell you, at least on a fair amount of these here, there's not enough room to park a car in between the two of them. Because it's only, you're literally looking at 10 feet between driveway to driveway. So there's a 10-foot grass strip there. A lot of those areas, you're not gonna be able to park even in there. And so there's, I can see, we can see it both ways. We did have like I said, we had a long conversation about it.
Cape Cod
Peter,
berm
One of the
for us.
things we might be able to look into is not necessarily a Cape Cod berm, but more like an
The
H berm
the A-frame.
that's more
Play
vertical.
with the H.
H.
So
It's
if they do the
Supreme.
bituminous,
Yeah,
More
yeah,
vertical.
not looking for granite curbing.
No. But
It's
it's
God, no.
face
Not even
H-
concrete
H-
precast, but
It's
yeah.
asphalt.
Is
Just
that
the
what-
asphalt, yeah.
yeah,
That was
Yeah,
it.
it's like this little,
the extruded, right?
Just to let you know why we,
was that 6-8 inches or something like that?
Yeah,
Is that-
6 inches, yeah.
Yeah,
why we like it
It's got
in
straight
town
edges.
here. is
straight
because
edge, yeah.
Snowplows, when they hit it, they don't wreck it, they slide up and over it.
That's the idea of Cape Cod.
Right, that's the
Called
idea of the
training.
Cape Cod berm. So it's
Right.
6 of 1, it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again,
I like it, I like to have
the edge,
the edge,
yeah. Are you okay with the sidewalk up to that edge?
yes.
I mean,
For this,
people,
because just the way it's set up, the whole setup. Subdivision, whole different story.
And I agree with you too, is the clientele, you remember, it's an over 55, granted, you're still gonna have people
that
that
goes both
are
ways, Wes.
55,
Be careful.
56, I know.
I mean, that's a double-edged sword, I agree with you.
They're
They're not
more
going
experienced,
fast,
they
but
know what they're
boy,
doing.
they ain't always right on target either.
But you see less traffic. In a project like this, you do see less traffic than a typical
True,
subdivision.
and, you know, it's not like, it's not a cut-through road in
Correct,
town or
and
anything.
you're also restricted to the number, you know, you can't have anybody under 55 living there full-time. So there are restrictions to the amount of people that are gonna be living there, amount of cars that you should be seeing out here.
You know, at first blush, I'm more concerned about the outer ring than those two inners, and even that inside cut, because you're coming down that straightaway, you know, and then you're on that sidewalks on that outside curve there. But you know, again, I can go either way. I mean, the proximity to the structure, to the edge of that curbing, you know, it's only 10 feet, like you're saying. It's, you know, having the curb in the middle is going to look ridiculous. I mean,
Well, I think that vertical bituminous curb will
Yeah.
cause that better separation. I think.
keep some safety measure there.
Correct.
Again, I don't
Because
think they're
if
going to be going too
you
high.
hit- Yeah, if you
so
hit that,
they'll-
you're
they
gonna
should-
know.
Yeah, they're going to have to be really, you know,
Yeah.
gunning for somebody.
Yeah.
Then, okay, if you're 5 feet off the
You ever
line.
seen some of them drive?
Well,
Hey, when it's time to play pickle, it's time to play pickle. You know, you gotta get down there. Don't be late for that. Go ahead.
and Quinn's, I think Quinn's comment separating pedestrians, I mean, that's one of the purposes of the,
And that's why we're thinking
and
a vertical curve will cause that.
it'll, I mean, it'll still be close. I mean, sidewalk here,
Yep.
cars there. Speaking for myself, you know, an increasingly unstable walker, you know, as I reach the age of, 15 years beyond the age of eligibility. I have a little bit of concern over the 100 maximum number of units, and we're cutting corners on a safety item. So I have a concern with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still a little caught up on how to handle the sidewalk myself. You guys seem okay with it, Jim and
Would
I?
it, yeah, I'm just thinking, would it be possible to have, and I'm not sure like how expensive it would be or what you would do, a visual, like, because are you talking about it all being pavement? So it's a pavement sidewalk, cut down, and then pavement on
Yeah.
the roadway,
So
right?
see, like,
Yes.
pretend this is the roadway right here, Michelle?
Yes,
And then you have a curb in about this tall.
but this would all be asphalt. It would all
All
be the same
asphalt,
color.
yes.
Yep.
Right.
And then you have the asphalt start right on that's about a 4-inch thick like
Right.
berm like this. So right here would be the asphalt for another 3-4 feet
Right.
of sidewalk.
So I'm wondering if, I understand what Jim is saying, and I understand the reason for the grass there is like you can visually
safety
see,
buffer.
right? It's a safety buffer, but I think there's also a safetiness of, if you're walking on this and you don't have good depth perception, would it be easy for you to walk off the curb? Would maybe
Possible.
even just painting that make it delineate so that you see that it's different? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if that's practical or not, but I'm just wondering if that would be a compromise.
yeah, I don't think that would be, you know, having a yellow or even a green line on the curbing. It's a maintenance nightmare. It's gonna wear
Okay.
off soon. It's gonna
Yeah.
look lousy. I
Okay.
wouldn't be too amenable to that.
Okay.
Mr. George?
Thank you. Just a question for the applicant. Do you plan on having any speed limit signs in the site development?
We can if you need to, right? I mean,
We can do whatever we
yeah,
want.
whatever you want.
I mean, do you contemplate some speed limit within the site that would lend itself to safety needs, such as pedestrian separation from vehicles?
I know a lot of the sites that I'm used to have like a 10-mile or a 15-mile.
It's a fairly low, and even that, it's like, I know when we talk about traffic calming or speed reduction, is they always tell us to reduce and compress everything,
Yeah.
because you don't feel
That
as,
keeps the speed down.
you don't feel as safe, right? When
Yeah.
you're having a 30-foot wide
When
pavement
you
with
got the
no
room.
homes near you,
Yeah.
you just want to go.
It's wide open, they go, they
Yeah,
take it.
everything's
Take what
kind
the
of
road gives them.
compressed, it makes you a little more cautious.
Yeah. And certainly the tightness of the housing and the road, even a 24-foot road, you feel tight, you know.
Correct.
It's not wide
No,
road.
it is, no,
Really
it's
get
not,
crazy.
no. But I'm thinking that's, and I'd like to, if the board was okay, even present the vertical curb solution to Quinn and see what their thought is too about that.
Yeah,
And to your point, as long as if it's possible, you know, you might be able to somehow two-tone to have a separation, but I wouldn't want to get carried away with painting or anything like that. It might not look appealing, and it will possibly become a maintenance nightmare, so
Right.
there might be a way to pick a certain blend or.
Well, on your catch basins, are you guys putting granite in at that location
What's on
for
there?
the curbing?
So that's one of the
Because,
questions.
because just for, the reason why I ask is, when you're looking at a roadway and it's 100 feet long, but you got a catch basin every, I don't know, 50, 70 feet or something, it gives you a marker.
a separate-
It gives you that delineation,
Yes.
that, okay, hey, there's something different here,
Yes.
it just helps with that thing, and,
So
it's a
one of
different
the,
color, it stands out.
one of the comments that did come up, and one of the comments we want to have a conversation with Quinn about, and it might come back to the board about, was there are some catch basins that we couldn't meet the requirement of
Yeah.
10-foot separation from the driveways.
Yeah,
Because there's so many driveways out here, spacing of catch basins with regards to the subdivision rules and regulations, some of it didn't quite line up where they needed to meet that requirement. And so we were gonna have that conversation with Quinn because of the type of development where it's a condo development, and not a single-family housing development, which is subdivision rules
Sure.
and regulations more geared to. It's harder to meet that requirement, so that's one of the things we're gonna talk about. So there are some locations that won't have it because it's gonna be flush to the ground. But the other areas, yes, that was the intent, is to meet the regulations.
where it's on a curbing.
Correct, yes, yeah.
Will it be concrete or granite?
But I think there are granite throats typically, but I'll take a look at the subdivision rules regulations. I don't remember off the top of my head what the
Yeah, I can't remember
the
myself
requirement
at
is.
this moment.
Okay.
But that's something we can have, I was gonna have a conversation with Quinn about. It might come back for discussion with the board at the next meeting about it.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think at least this
concrete's a
time,
different color.
okay, Jim, do you have a comment?
Related to the comment about, speed limit signs and this, the effective speed limits, speed limits can be controlled with calming devices such as speed bumps.
Yes, or speed humps.
Speed bumps,
yeah.
speed humps that can be
Yeah.
plowed over in
Right.
this area. And if that's something that, Quinn did not comment on that, but if that's
a good
something
point, Jim.
that in some of the, that straight
Yeah,
entryway
especially on the
would-
outside ring there.
would seem an appropriate place
Yeah.
to put one or two. I just returned from a trip to Florida, and where there are, in a lot of the subdivisions, there are those speed humps, and they're very effective, certainly more effective than speed limit signs of keeping the
I
traffic.
understand.
And the signs, I'll be honest with you, I mean, you wanna talk about a waste of time and energy and money, I mean, who's gonna police it?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
At least those humps
Yeah.
act, they police it,
Yeah.
without having to hire somebody the police aren't gonna be out there radaring people on
I
the road out
think, I
there.
think the HOA will police it, they'll police themselves.
They'll have to
won't
get
they?
some little thing with a, chase people down, so I mean, to be realistic here, and something that's gonna work, that's the most,
And
you
that's
wanna
what-
do something that's foolish and it's just a waste of time and energy.
Yep.
But, street signs don't make the place really look any nicer either, to be honest with you. If they're gonna be ineffective, there's no use to having
Yeah,
it.
I think.
So I think that's a great idea. And that makes me kinda a little more comfortable with having the sidewalk up to the curbing. I don't know about you guys. How do you wanna leave this with them? We definitely would like the step curbing, and, we wanna leave this open, or do we wanna allow that sidewalk up to the curb? How do you guys feel about it?
And I do want to let you know that the result of it, if you want to have that 5-foot grass sidewalk, all the units on the side of the sidewalk will have to be pushed back another 5 feet. We'll have an additional 5 feet to the driveways, and it will compress some
The
of the.
backyards a little bit.
Correct, and even same with the exterior. So it's gonna, it is gonna be a change.
To have the strip, you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah.
So
But
it
you wouldn't
does-
have to do that if we kept it up tight to the road.
Correct, it doesn't, yeah, exactly. The layout is the way it is. will
Yeah, because
stay.
it'd look ridiculous, having a 5-foot grass strip.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is the
I
units
thought
that
you
have
had
the more
cell
bump
unit.
out in the front, it's gonna be 5-foot paved and then 5-foot grass. It's gonna look a little different there. So
Yes.
that's why we're thinking a 10-foot grass is more substantial. It has a better look to it where you
And,
might be able to shrub
excuse me,
it.
how wide did you say that the sidewalks were, Wes?
5 foot, I
5
think is
foot.
what we.
It's pretty good size. What do you guys think of that? If we mandate the speed humps in there to dictate that, what's your thoughts on that? To keep people going, so I think the speed humps are a great idea, Jim, because that's gonna keep the speed under
Yeah,
control.
sometimes it's fine for Florida, but is it okay for up here when you have snow or?
Well, so that's
I
why
mean,
we.
they're all around in parking lots, you
we-
see them in every office
So
building.
we can do it, there are a few different ways we
Schools.
can do it up here, but a lot of times now they've been seeing the smoother speed
Yeah,
humps.
Yeah.
it's a 3-foot,
So you
4-foot
can,
wide.
yeah, so you can
Right.
plow it a little.
Yeah, it's
little more
not the old,
effectively. Correct.
shake your teeth out. But I mean, it's a pretty good size stretch, and it's low profile, but it gets the job done,
Yes,
Yeah.
Gets
the job done.
and it doesn't ruin your car.
Keeps you honest, I mean, let's face it, if you're out of control, nothing's gonna stop you.
Chris, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yep.
Tim has his hand up. I didn't know if he wanted to comment on this.
Yeah, Tim, hang with you just one second, just kinda wanna get the board's opinion on this, how you guys are feeling about that.
Yeah, I'm all set.
You know,
But maybe you want to listen to what Tim has to say
Yeah.
before we.
all right. Yeah, if nobody else has anything, we'll throw Tim on there. Go ahead, Tim.
Hey, Chris, the one thing I wanted to comment, and I know Dick's about that, that grass strip between the sidewalk and the berms or the
Curbing?
the street, they've always been a problem in our subdivisions, because what'll happen is residents could plant trees out there, and then over the time, the asphalt sidewalks start coming up, they become uneven, it pushes the berms out. So me personally, from the planning board's perspective, I would love to see these sidewalks up against the berms and do that, you know, the not the Cape Cod, but the squared off berms, because it would alleviate all the problems down the road. And I know the HOA covers this, but it just make things look so much better. So that's sort of my comment. I tend to like to stay away from those grass strips.
Thank you, Tim. Any other comment on this? All right, so I think, are we safe to say that we're okay with this up to the edge? Jim, are you gonna?
No,
all right with
I'll
that?
move it.
Okay. All right, so just, we're good with that then,
All right.
with the edge curve. Go ahead.
27, and it's a little bit of conversation with Quinn, but I also want to ask the board. So 3 of the basins are designed, we call infiltration basins, which would be the 3 here.
Yep.
We're required to infiltrate some of the stormwater back into the ground once we start adding impervious surface. This basin, we couldn't get to work as an infiltration basin because the way the grades work with the driveway, we had to get it deeper. That's not going to act as an infiltration basin.
Okay.
So we're required to have offset to groundwater for these basins, but these basins are shown, majority of them are shown in fill. And so we're not necessarily so concerned about offset to the groundwater. The other reason I'm not as concerned about the offset to groundwater is that there is a fair amount of elevation change before I get down to the basin here. So if I need to raise the basin 2 feet or another 4 feet,
Stay out of the
these 2
groundwater.
basins,
You're all right.
we could do it during construction. To get, especially to out here, to get the testing right now is a little more difficult. And so we're required to do soil testing in there to verify groundwater depth. What we put in our analysis was that during construction, when the construction begins and they start to clear out here, when we can actually get to those areas of the site, that we would do the test pits. We would be willing to obviously alert Quinn Engineering when that's going to happen, so if they want to come out and witness the testing with us to make sure the groundwater depth is where we're saying it is. But we do have some flexibility within the design to raise those basins if we needed to, another 2 feet if the groundwater was, say, a foot under the ground, which we don't foresee.
Very unlikely, right?
Correct.
Understood.
So we do have some wiggle room there. We'd rather do the testing.
All right, that's just something we put in order of conditions and we just follow up.
So we've done it, yeah, exactly.
Make sure that gets done before, occupancy things.
And that's how we've done it in the past. We've made a
Acceptance of the
conditional
project.
approval that's done.
I think that's fair enough.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, oh, yeah, sorry.
No, so-
Oh, yeah, excuse me.
Hi. My name's Jeffrey Ham. My wife and I are butters. And groundwater is a real concern for us.
Yep.
Groundwater level, we own property at 100 Maple Ave. Currently, the groundwater runs about 8 inches below the basement slab, and it's dealt with sump pumps. And, would like to try and be assured in some way, that this project isn't going to affect what we have. Currently, it's a preschool, and, should that groundwater level change, we're going to be faced with space that, we can't use. And the building that was built next door to us years ago did cause a groundwater problem. The state came in and did some remediation, but it's kind of a messy situation we have right now. And I don't know if you have high groundwater, Doug, or you have or not. But
You're kidding, right? I can get 4 feet of water in my basement,
yeah.
so it's a really high water level.
Right now, it's managed.
This one's gonna be on the other side of the little stream that goes down through, so you're safe from this
Right.
project here.
So the water, I can tell you at least surface water wise, any of the water from this site gets to the pond and goes down toward the southwest. It's not directed toward Maple Ave. And so the way, everything, as you were stating, everything's kind of cut off from here and everything goes off to the southwest. So we're not.
So the level in the pond is managed. Is that what I'm hearing?
And so the way we have to do our drainage analysis, we got to make sure that we're not negatively impacting that water that goes to the pond now. And so that's why we did all the stormwater analysis, to show that we're not increasing the peak rate of runoff to the pond. And that's part of what Quinn
So if there's
Engineering.
naturally there now, they've studied that, and they can't increase that amount.
Correct.
Does that make, okay, that's going to the pond.
And we gotta be careful of that pond because of that dam. It's in very bad shape, so, yeah.
Well, it's the beaver. The beaver is our biggest problem with that pond, because they
Yeah.
come in to stop it, and then the water level comes right up to the top. So the managing of that, which they've been doing really well lately, it keeps that water level down where it should be.
So just to kind of give it, just the overall, this gentleman, Wes, is the engineer that's designing this to maintain the water, right? But we also have Quinn Engineering that's going to review all the calculations. They're a third party, they're from Paxton, they're a third party, they have no dice in the game. They're just looking at this as a third party, to protect the town's interests, particularly in the abutters, to make sure his calculations and the way the state and everything says, hey, all that water that's there has got to go the way it naturally goes, okay? And that's what this is just a brief outline right now of certain things that they've found just to raise a question of and try to get some more information on. So we're going to continue with this, and Quinn will be making sure. I'll never stand here and guarantee you're not going to get water in your basement, but I think we're going to be trying to make sure that doesn't happen to anybody. And the nice thing for you is, like these gentlemen said, you get the stream and the pond in between you and the lot, which does give you a pretty good amount of protection. But still, nonetheless, we don't want to overload that so that it dumps out into another area that it should not have gone, and that's what they're trying to make sure we don't do for you, or anybody. So stay tuned, because there's more to come. All right, but that is our intent. Go ahead, Wes.
So that would be the end of,
Yep.
there's another page of comments, but most of them are technical in nature.
Yeah.
That we're gonna address.
Yeah.
And then there are the waivers, which I don't know if we necessarily need to touch tonight.
I don't want to do that right now tonight. Yep.
And the reason I say that too is I know we're gonna add a couple to it, so I think.
Sure.
I think once we get a final list, we can have a conversation with the waivers. But-
Yeah, then we can knock them all out one time
And you can
again.
see Quinn Engineering, they didn't have any issues with the waiver request that we.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff is standard stuff.
Fairly standard, correct.
You're not asking for anything out of bounds there.
Correct.
I think the big elephant in the room is really, I want to try to get at least get rolling here, is the quantity and the general layout and what the board thinks of this. 142 units, particularly, 88 to 142. Do we like this 142 unit layout? Does anybody have any comments?
How soon are they gonna get going?
You
Not to the fact that I wanna see what you're gonna get involved in, but just wanna see you get going.
I think part of the discussion that led up to the number of units, when we initially had the proposal, there was a mixture of units on the lower level.
behind the Mosio garage,
and
yes,
the
Peter,
upper
yeah.
level. A lot of the discussion at the very beginning sort of evolved around 88 units. But as they started to think about the project more and conceptualize the project more, the trade-off with the more units is it allows them to incorporate more of the amenities that are shown on the plan. So the project itself, the number of units works very nicely from an economic and a viability standpoint to allow for the amenities that they want to incorporate. And it fits well on the site, so the number works, and it's not such intense density that you can't do anything with it, but it's enough that it'll allow us to fit in the amenities that are being proposed.
Okay. In general, just to give you my opinion on the general shape and distancing, my biggest thing was I just wanted to make sure that we were designing, or these folks were designing this around our 55 and over bylaws. And it sounds like from what Wes has explained to us tonight, that's pretty much, he's right on par with most of that, if not everything. So that I'm happy to see, because I really didn't want to stretch that. You know, I didn't want to go outside that. You know, as part of our charge is we got to uphold this, you know, the Rutland Heights bylaw and reuse plan, and part of that is to maintain and keep with the flavor and the feel of the town. And if we're going outside those bounds just to allow this, I'm not really all for that. But if a project like this is going to look like what anybody else can build in town, I mean, personally, I'm not really, I don't have any major problems with it. That's my general thoughts, and I'd like to hear anybody else's comment.
All right, in terms of you gotta realize that that's like 17, 18 acres of land that we're sitting
Yeah.
on, so it looks kinda, put
Composed.
together.
Yeah.
But I am one that I have a unique vantage point, because I live right across the street, and I cannot see anything on that tree line. So you're gonna build this whole mecca of buildings, and I won't be able to see them. And I'm the only one that can see them, because I'm the highest house that looks right out over it. So in terms of aesthetics, I don't have a problem with that.
So you're saying it's just kind of tucked in the trees, and it's
Well, it
not
is,
gonna
because
be
you got that whole line of trees there in the front,
along the roadway.
around the way, right in there.
Okay, yeah.
That just, it shows up everything. Again, would like to put this, I don't want to say, I was gonna say, put the slide going down that hill all the way to the pond, so we can continue to take the toboggans down the hill, but I think it looks good. I'm very happy that they're single level instead of like a townhouse type of thing. And I guess I am not uniquely, but a lot of my friends, all right, that live in Rutland are selling their homes, all right, and they're going to all these senior housings.
Yeah.
And I think that we're going to see more and more of those people doing it, and they don't want to. I personally don't want to leave Rutland.
Sure.
And you want to be able to be in the proximity. So I guess as a whole, I don't have any problem with this. I think it's going to look good. Again, when you say 100 houses, you say, wow. You know, what's the right number? Is it 80? Is it 50?
Yeah,
Is
it's
it 20?
intimidating when somebody wants to put up even 80. You know, I mean, 88 to 142 units.
Right.
For Rutland, that's a big deal, guys. You know, we don't get this every day, and you know,
But they're not
kids.
kids.
You know?
All right, so you're not adding it to the school population. When you said, one of the questions I had is like, if I buy the townhouse there or the whatever, can I sublet it to, somebody with 3 kids? Or is there no way to do, I'm not doing that. I'm just asking that question that, I could just end
right
up
in your
having
regulations.
a whole bunch of kids up there because people either sublet it or whatever.
One of the conditions, one of the requirements is that we provide for deed restrictions, so that when a unit is sold, there's a restriction in the deed that the unit is for 55 and older. So there'll be double restrictions. There'll be restrictions in the homeowners association bylaws, and then there'll be individual restrictions in the deed that'll restrict it to 55 and older. So that would be addressed.
And the only other thing is I would have liked to had each department weigh in and say, I've seen them, I have no problem with them, as opposed to
Nothing.
hearing crickets, I just.
Yeah, I mean, today no news is good news, right? But I hear you. It would be
Yeah.
nice to have the loop closed.
Actually,
We might be able to reach out.
Maybe flesh that out, so that's just not quite what happened. I said that there were no substantial comments, indicating that there were no negative comments about the project from the IRT. I will maybe recap some of the lesser comments. So, for example, the chief of police reviewed it and had no issue at this time. He may want to take a look at the traffic study when it's released. The fire chief had the comments that you heard earlier about the separation distance between hydrants. The DPW director had an interest in getting the stormwater management plan, which he has, for his review. However, the prime review will be done by Quinn. The Board of Health agent had no particular comment because this will be a public water resource system. The Conservation Commission chair was acting as staff, and he was involved with this meeting. You now have Conservation Commission comments from that board. The building commissioner didn't have any particular comments, any review he's going to be doing at the building permit stage. There was a comment about the proximity of structures. The building code is going to control for that, such as greater fire separation on exterior walls, which allows for the distance to be closer. The planning office didn't have any particular comments and was relying on Quinn to do its work. So those are the types of comments that we received orally. These departments did not put these comments in writing, but I can report that's what the gist of the conversation was tonight at this time.
Okay. So can we like add that to our minutes that we got that kind of input?
Yeah. Yep. I think, we can and we did, yeah.
I've got,
Okay.
I like what is sitting there. I like the idea of giving a try to move that flagpole up. It's gonna be a doozy. And I am trying to get the wishing well out of there before you guys take over, just to let you know. Because I want to, if there are any coins in the bottom of that, I want it to go to the Historic Society. But
Yeah.
most important thing, because I've mowed it for so many years up there, off and on, that the hawks up there still got plenty of open space to have lunch. Honest to Pete, I've never seen so many of them up there, so it's always been good, and seeing the coyotes and other animals, so. Good job.
Michelle, you have anything?
I'm just concerned about the second egress still.
Okay.
Um,
As far as making
having
sure we
that
have
open
it?
so that people can, that people
Yeah.
can use that
Um,
second
Just,
driveway.
just to, we can talk about it real quick, but I thought this board had agreed that would be an open,
Yes.
non-gated second egress. And if our opinions haven't changed for any reason, I would just like to, let you know, Wes, that that's something we're gonna,
The plans don't show a gate currently
okay,
on
so.
it, so.
And I know you said you got that road wide enough to meet the subdivision regulations, so I think if you keep following that direction, you'll be right on par with what we're looking for. It's gonna satisfy the board, and I think, again, it's gonna make the right thing for the town.
And it'll make Seth happy too, because he wanted
The
that.
fire chief can't have a problem with that, can he?
That's
I mean, if he's
correct.
getting everything he's getting on the top side.
Yep.
I mean, it just seems like a win-win, win. And if it's not a major sticking point for you guys, I don't think you have any issues with that. I think we just keep giving these guys that direction. So the gate, again, just forget about the gate and just keep going the way, with that open road, okay? That's okay. Really, the only thing personally I have, and it's very minor, but I'm concerned about the amenity space, that it's enough for the 142 units. You got some gazebos, you got the one, how many square feet is the little, the little house there, community center? Yep. 3,000. And can you talk to what's gonna be inside that and what type of, what that'll be used for? Or what type of uses it'll be?
Kind of like a normal community, it'll have a kitchenette, not necessarily an oven, stove, all that.
Sure.
but a sink, meeting room. We're talking about possibly patios around the outside with
Okay.
large sliders that during the summer they can expand out a little bit,
All right,
make a little
yep.
more room for them.
Yep.
Talking about maybe an area for exercise bikes, those type of things.
Yeah,
Not a lot, but just something.
Sure, yeah.
And then, of course, the gazebo out there,
yep.
the larger ones.
You
the oval.
typically allow for some office space for the
Well,
association.
there would have to be office space for the association.
Yeah.
Okay, the association office
Yeah,
by
so
that.
that there'd be a central point where someone can.
So that's gonna be done on site, not an off-site type of,
Correct.
okay. All right.
And there's a
Were
playground
you thinking
across
of
the
having
street.
any kind of community, other than your community, inviting other parts of the community in?
We started that in that kind of direction at the beginning, but because you have your senior, we're kind of turned away from that. You're rebuilding or remodeling your senior center or something on that idea. A year ago, this was.
Heaven only knows what's going to be
Okay,
happening.
But that's
I'm-
kind of why we went away from it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, they don't want this.
Yeah.
And to me, when you can do community things, it'd be nice. But you do have the library here, but it's usually booked lately.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying
I see.
maybe another
Well,
facility.
then that's part of what we thought of, the association allowing people to book things for the hall or something.
Yeah.
Even a wedding, let's say, I don't know. hoping it's large enough to do something in that idea.
It's a good
Can't
idea.
get too large, that's the only thing, it's not a lot of room.
Yeah, no.
You know, personally, I don't have a lot of experience as far as, you know, what size community center per, you know, quantity of units you should have that works for this community, you know, that's gonna be appropriate for this community. Obviously, you're not gonna get 142 people in a 3,000 square foot area, but, you know, I just kinda wanted to put that out there to the board. You know, even if there was just even some space where something could be future built, if there was a need and the desire, and the association had the funds, and there was an area to put up something different, or that would meet a future need as things evolve or whatever, maybe just something for that, just to leave the door open for some other future amenities that whoever these group of people are, you know, they feel that, hey, what we have here is wonderful, but we'd like this, you know. And just that flexible space, if you know what I mean, you know, something that is that whole vibe, ebbs and flows over the history of this thing. They can kind of do whatever they want to do up there, I guess, you know. And just, I don't know if I'm making much sense or if that's something
Yes.
that's possible, but just something to that regard.
We're visualizing a single floor, but as you're saying, in the future, they could possibly go up, I don't know, it's a big
Yeah.
town, but that's what I'm saying, is I don't know.
Just some way to give them something to do in the future, or you know,
Yeah.
a place for a band or something. I don't know, you know, something like that to come in a little bigger area or something.
Yeah,
That's
well,
what a bunch of people are into, you know, that are up there. I guess just
Summertime.
that flexible space for whatever they can imagine, not so
Yeah.
much what we're gonna kind of fixate them to right now at this point in time. That's all. So that would be my only comment, really, other than, you know, the second egress as well. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And garden, I think we've talked like some kind of garden at one point, but
Well, yeah, even like, that's a great point. Like an area for a common community garden.
yeah.
You know, if there's just some open space for, you know, something simple like that, a seasonal thing, like it is, like
Yeah.
you said, you know. Ice sculpture in the winter, something to get them outside. I don't know,
Well,
whatever.
that was the idea, that's why Lowell called it a lifestyle community.
Yeah.
That's the idea of the walking trails, get them outside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something a little more
Sidewalks,
vibrant
get out
and,
the trails,
you know,
gazebos to rest, sit outside.
I mean, it's only gonna help you marketability wise, number one, but number two, ultimately, it's great for everybody, for the community and for the people that are gonna live there, and, you know, that,
But I was gonna say, when I used to do brush hogging, this used to be the nurse's garden area. It was
Oh, is
right down
that-
in that area. So just to let you know, and the soil's looking pretty decent.
I was gonna say, must have good soil there.
Can I ask a question?
please, ma'am.
My name is Suzanne McKeown,
What's your address, ma'am, just for the record?
7 Heritage Hill Drive.
Thank you.
Rutland.
All right, thank you.
These are supposed to be single-family, single-level
Yep,
units?
they're one levels, yeah, they're two single families side by side, so it's like a duplex setup, correct?
Yes.
And how many bedrooms?
2.
2-bedroom.
We're restricted to 2 by your regulations.
2 bedrooms, 1.5 baths,
Two full baths.
2 full baths, even better. My concern is the garage. The size of the garage. I don't know where I heard it, and that's what made me come tonight, that it would be a 10-foot garage.
I can say this much right now, I'm not sure where or who you got that from, but I can assure you, we haven't seen a plan of these units yet. So you got some good inside information, I'm a little jealous, I'm not gonna lie right now.
Well,
right.
well, so I'm asking, is it you people that are building this? Is it a 10-foot garage?
I would have to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, because aren't they a single one-car garage?
It's a single car garage, I believe,
Generally,
right?
If it's a one-car
10 foot
garage,
6 is what the inside
and
walls are, 12-foot garage.
I'm 79. I'm near the stage of a roller, a walker, or a wheelchair. In that small garage, I can't get in and out of my house. Or I have to be outside, get out of the car, get my walker, and then get in the garage. Well, Rutland's weather is always not conducive to that.
Look at that. Not gonna
But,
use it too
so,
much.
those are the kind of questions, like I have it, that it's so big that it's 142, that do we need 142? Can't we only have, 140 and give us a bigger garage that we need to be able to maneuver?
Okay, it's a very good point you bring up.
I mean,
You know, so, I mean, I can't argue with
you
what you're
keep
saying, man.
saying senior community and, you know, all this, but we're not all that chipper.
We breed them pretty hardy up here in Rutland, don't we? No, you know, it's a good point, and I'll just,
We'll look at the designs.
I mean, please, you know,
I mean, I really
if you want to sell
I'm
units, I think
very
you should listen to her.
interested.
I'm not telling you how to build your buildings, but I think she brings up a very valid, you know, good point.
Because I
That
read-
flexibility
looked at the other
for,
one,
you know,
I
any
heard
type of
you.
handicap or physical abilities, and, you know, let's face it, you know, those ailments come and go, so it's not like it doesn't have to be for forever. But sometimes people go into those physical therapy things and they need that extra space. So I think you bring up a wonderful point.
But I don't think they come and go. Not all of them.
Just add more, get added on.
You're not right. You just keep adding them on. The best thing I got going is my hearing. You've talked very well tonight. I really have enjoyed you. You speak loud enough. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Your point was a very good one, and we appreciate your input.
Well, I hope you can do something about it because we need this access. And even if it's one door, but the garage is 1.5 width, we have movability. It's all I'm looking for because
Can't
I
argue
was
with that.
seriously
Honestly, just
thinking
sound
of going up there. And what are you saying, 3 years from now?
We hope not.
I hope not.
We hope it's a lot sooner than that.
How do I get in on the ground floor?
They're all done.
Good point, Dick.
They're all in
We're all gonna be a ground
Through the
floor,
garage.
yeah.
That's a great point. I mean, I look forward to seeing what you can come up with that. And potential customers are speaking, so yeah, these guys are pretty sharp, so I'm sure they're listening, and hopefully
I hope
they'll
so.
address that and see how it goes in the forward. That's a good comment, tremendous comment. Any other public comments at this time, or online, Tamika, that you see? Anybody that wants to?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're 2 hours into this, folks, and I don't know about you, but I think just
You want to
because
continue this to a,
yeah, we're gonna talk about continuing this. Have we given you guys some pretty good homework to do here? We know we had some other issues already we gotta go for. Again, you guys have done a tremendous job coming forward with a lot of this information. I think we're able to work through a few things, give you some more direction, to tighten the plan up, to keep tightening things up here. Keep working through it, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep working and keep hammering them down and getting it right the first time. Ultimately, we want these set of plans spot on, so you know what to build, you got no questions, you can go to town quick, do your job efficiently, the town can monitor you and manage you properly, effectively, and it's a great project for everybody, and, you know, and everybody's had their say too. So, we'll keep moving forward. What's the next date you guys think, we would, what do we got, Tamika, availability coming up here in the next few Wednesdays?
We're good after May 11th. That's all I've got so far.
All right. So what's the following Wednesday? Would that be the 18th?
18th.
Does the 18th, you know, from you folks, Wes and attorney, what would the time frame you would be to, you think would be effective for you to come back with some substantial improvements?
You go to May 18th?
18, you said? Oh,
May
I thought you-
18th?
I thought you said 11, okay.
No, May 18th is,
Which
Gives you about a month, right?
Yeah,
About 4 weeks?
Yes.
Yeah, a couple weeks to get
I
the stuff
think-
over to Quinn, at least with regard to the traffic.
I
and
think that'll work great.
Maybe get some back and
I
forth.
think
with the traffic.
knowing this is pretty spot on, I think you can start fine tuning things now, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I
it's-
think
it's
you
taking care of the
got
traffic
your,
stuff,
you got
yeah.
your foundation, your framework here.
Yep.
That's really what I was hoping to accomplish tonight. I think that's tremendous for everybody here, for this project to continue and move forward efficiently. Dave,
I didn't catch that. What's the date of the continuance?
we're talking about the 18th of May.
Is that agreeable?
Do you want to do 6:30 again?
I like 6:30.
Dick likes 6:30, I can't argue. Jim, you good with that?
I'm not here, but if 4 others are, it's fine.
Okay, all right.
So I just need a motion to
Do you
continue.
want to move it to the next week? Would you rather, is it important for you to be here? I mean, you're, come up with a big point tonight, brother. We needed you tonight. You got that guy home off a second one. It's a big hit.
Or would you be able to do it remotely?
The 18th or the 25th is fine. Whatever the board wants is fine.
I think 1 week is a huge deal here. If you're gonna be here, I wouldn't mind moving it to the 25th
I'm
personally.
good either way.
If we did that, could we put it on a Tuesday? Or no?
Tuesdays are tough.
Huh?
Tuesdays are a little
Who's
tougher.
here?
There's a conflict with planning board meetings and or conservation meetings. I know, those planning board members.
So can you do the 25th?
I can do the 25th.
Miss the ball game. 25th.
25th.
All right.
25th?
All right, so let's go to 25th. All right.
6:30.
Oh, Grant's-
At 6:30, yep, 6:30, 25th.
And I'll so move. How's that?
All right, we want to continue, yeah, so you're going to make a motion to
Motion
continue that?
the meeting
Continue.
to
Second it?
May Sure,
All right,
second it.
thank you, Michelle, second it. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You don't mind, we have a form for that purpose. If you could just sign off on it as a chair, that'd be great. The applicant co-sign it, and then we'll...
Good.
Dave, did you want us to sign, you had this thing that you asked us to sign tonight? Do you want us to all to sign, is that what you're asking him to sign?
No, this is a signature for the continuance.
But do you want us all to sign this tonight too? Okay.
Assuming that the board's agreeable with that decision.
Thank you, Dave.
Great, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
didn't talk about
Once
it,
again, I'm
but
saved by the,
What's this decision?
This is just signing that, saying that we did this meeting.
this was the concept one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was, all right, so now we've closed this hearing, right?
Yep.
For tonight, right now, not closed it formally, but
Yeah,
just,
you-
it
Yeah.
stopped it tonight anyways, so we'll use the right term, yeah.
Continue.
We do have some house cleaning business to do, so, thank you, Wes. So if everybody, we just want to clean up a few things here. Thank you all for coming. Everybody online, thank you. You're welcome to sit around and listen to us, just clean up a few items, but other than that, we won't be here too long, trust me. So we have the decision from the concept plan that we never actually signed, because we never met after we finalized that thing. And Dave was forward thinking here to get this thing for us, so if you all wouldn't mind signing this tonight, and closing this loop here. Oh, this is the rest of it, sorry.
There's 3 pages of it, but we're signing the final page.
Yeah, that's the whole decision, but that's, and I pretty much read those 7 items tonight. That was the decision.
I just want you...
Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put together.
2 other items that I just wanted to kind of bring up real quick, kind of from housekeeping, I don't want to wait too long, but I believe it's been about 1.5 years since we actually voted on positions. You know, chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. I know you 2 are members right now, technically. I just didn't want this to drag out, and make you think I'm just trying to.
Make a motion to leave it alone as it is.
Second and a motion.
Is there any
All in
discussion?
favor?
I think that's...
No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Who's the vice chair?
He is the vice chair, you're the
You're the
secretary.
secretary.
That too.
Yeah.
I'm secretary.
Yeah, but Tamika's doing all the work, so
There
you
you go.
get the best job in the house.
We work well together.
Okay, anything else?
The only other thing else was, is there anything else from the RDIC coming down the line that you guys know about?
Couldn't say, but one of the things I was gonna talk to Mike someday, maybe. Because I could never get a hold of Paul Davis, and that would be logging. You know, to try to make money in order to, cut and open up the other parcel of property.
Okay.
But
But no one's really gone, no
Yeah,
one's talking about purchasing that property out there or
no, but
another
it'd be
parcel.
nice to make it look nice, but it's also gotten to the period now where the birds come in, and the heck with it, leave it alone until fall.
We gotta make it a park.
Gotta open it up though, in order to make it a park.
In my opinion, I think the Mosio side should be developed for something possibly,
Yeah.
and that other parcel should be a park.
Yeah.
I think it's the best thing,
Oh, yeah.
you and I know, we're beating, so.
And if somebody, if the town does it,
And quite
it
honestly,
automatically goes.
from a review board's perspective, okay, that was really the 3 things. When you
Right.
looked at the overall perspective of this RDIC reuse, the Heights reuse, you know, with some business, there was some town amenities, you know, town services, you know. And I think we're kind of checking a couple of boxes right there. And if you had some maybe flex space down low or something to go along with Mosio or something that wasn't too evasive to the neighbors that are existing there, I don't know. I think personally, but anyways. I think that's all I have. Anybody else? Anything
No,
else?
thanks,
Tamika?
Lauren.
No, we're good.
Dave, got your decision right here all signed
All right,
up.
thank you very much.
Thank you guys for all the background work. Again, you guys
Yeah,
do an
thank
awesome
you very
job,
much.
really. You're the best.
And,
And is anybody gonna make a motion to close this thing before I
Do
stop
Tim-
talking?
Does anyone online have anything?
Oh, does anybody else online have anything? Mike, Tim?
Hey, Mikey.
That's Leah.
Leah? Oh, okay, the L is Leah, I didn't know that. Thank you. All right, well, with that
I
being
don't know if
said,
Leah saw that I had
I'm good.
her placard up.
Oh, there's-
hey, Mike, you good?
I'm good.
All right,
The only comment I'll make is in regards to the other parcels, the RDIC is taking a formal vote that we think we should just kind of hang tight until this project gets kicked off and then decide where to go with those other projects.
sure.
Other parcels, excuse me.
But no major interest right now.
No. And we're not looking either at this point.
I'm just curious. I don't really care. And if you're not at liberty to say anything, I'm fine with just telling me to shut up too. I don't care. I was just curious more than anything. I'm not really trying to plan my life out here for the next 6 to 8 months, to be honest with you. So, I
Does
try.
anybody have any other spare time to get on boards or, like a selectman or?
Slow down, Dick.
Okay.
Don't you write my name in like what's his face is talking about. Mike, how's the knee? Everything good?
Everything's great.
Glad to hear it.
You still in Florida?
Do we have to make a motion to close this officially?
Yeah, we did.
We did?
No, we just continued.
To continue.
Here and close the meeting.
Yeah.
And we closed the meeting. Okay.
Jim did.